Mahali's water 190 million rand. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's an alert if you're driving into Pretoria this morning. No traffic lights on SK and Pethvalley and Boom Street. That's going to cause some problems coming through from the Potco depot down past the cement factory and into central Pretoria. SK and Pethvalley, when you get traffic light troubles, always backs up during rush hour. Broken down vehicle to watch out for leaving Pietermaritzburg, just between Linfield Park and Amlas Road. And Cape Town, a heavy start this Thursday with a breakdown on the N2 inbound in the middle lane around Boonga Avenue in front of Lunga. That's already slowing traffic right back towards the airport runway area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. There is cricket to look forward to as the Proteas skipper Themba Bavuma calls for ruthless batting as the Proteas eye a first series win. And we have the 10th netball coach Jenny van Dijk looking forward to seeing the new Proteas captain Kanyisa Chwane leading on the court. We'll have the details at around 6:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with #SAfm Breakfast.
Hello, John with you through till 9 o'clock. It's SAfm Breakfast. Good morning to you. It is Thursday. What are we on? The 15th of August. Heard all the same. We're slap bang in the middle of the month. It's almost payday. You can hold on. We can do it. We can do it. Welcome to the show. It's a busy show today, and we have plenty to tell you about. This hour alone, we're talking to Outer, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Outer's accused the Department of Transport and the RTMC of misleading the public about the validity of driving licenses. This is why can't the driver's licenses be updated every 8 years instead of every 5 years? A couple of issues that they have raised. One is the misleading the public. One is where are the reports? They did studies into how often driver's licenses should be renewed. One of those reports is every 8 years. Yet they are sticking with every 5 years, and they think there might be issues there, and we'll find out why. Then there's a housing crisis in Alexandra. We've known this for a long time. President has been making promises for years. MMCs have been making promises. Mayors have been making promises. And then there was something called the Transitional Relocation Area. This was to de-densify is the word that they're using, Alex, during COVID-19. And they built these houses using old containers, and it was a transitional relocation area, TRA. And people have since moved in, and then they were evicted, and people have tried to move in again, and they keep getting evicted, and there have been protests, and this was the violent protest that happened, when was it, last week before even, and we're going to find out what is happening in Alex. Why is this TRA not being used efficiently, and who's looking after it, and what's the process? Every excuse in the book has been given about the issues with this building and creation of the transition relocation area. Sounded like a good idea, and it's just chaos at the moment. We'll find out why. Then the VBS shareholders are adamant that they're going to resurrect VBS Bank. How are the VBS shareholders going to convince people to put money into a new or a revitalized VBS Bank? What is going to be different? How are the processes going to be different from last time around? What is the security behind it? How do you build trust? Isn't that the thing about banks? It's all about trust. So how do we trust the new shareholders that the VBS Bank is somewhere where people can put their money? Once burnt, twice shy. Wasn't it twice? But I don't know what it is. The fact is, it's going to be difficult. And we'll talk to the secretary of the VBS Shareholders Forum on how they're going to do things differently this time around. Then, do you remember a long time ago, Jagersfontein in the Free State, where that tailings mine collapsed, or the tailings dump collapsed? People were moved out of their houses. There was just this flood of old mining tailings that just collapsed. People, vegetation, the whole area just about ruined there. Still looking for justice in that situation. And now there's a host of groups that have come together, and they are calling on the South African government to ensure justice for the people of Jagersfontein. So we'll talk to the convener of the Civil Society Tailings Working Group, which is a group of a host of groups. And we will find out from Hassan Logat what exactly is going on in Jagersfontein, and also what sort of justice has anything come out of that situation. We'll find out. Then, I keep getting phone calls Often we get phone calls to say, John, load shedding's not going away. We still have our 4 hours of power cuts. It's not load shedding. It's something else. And we're going to find out why we are still getting load reduction is the term that they are using. Only 11% of Alex's City Power customers pay for their electricity. 15,000 kilograms worth of cables were discovered and confiscated from an informal settlement in Kaya Sands. 13 transformers have been taken from somewhere else and they've been put in illegally along with all of these cables, and illegal electricity has been given to people at a cost. They're charging people, these syndicates. So when you say, why do I have load reduction? This is the reason, and we're going to talk to the City Power spokesperson about what is going on in a couple of the areas of Johannesburg that is leading to your load reduction. And then towards the end of the program, it's the big news story at the moment. It's international news at the moment. Mpox outbreak. I see the World Health Organization's got involved in this. It is a big story. We will find out what this means. Are we to worry when we hear terms like a public health emergency of international concern? That's according to the World Health Organization. The Mpox is spreading across Central and Eastern Africa. Scientists are concerned about how fast new variants of the disease are spreading. We're going to talk to a professor of communicable diseases today. We're going to find out what Mpox is. I think we know a little bit about it, but what has changed? What is different from the Mpox that has been around for many, many years? We have vaccines for it. So what is different this time around from Mpox that's been around for all of those years? So all of that still coming up in the show. It's 12 minutes past 6. Good morning.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late up.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Feel good breakfast show.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, The Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
The Daily News Diary on SAfm.
Good morning, Eva Cheaper.
Good morning, John. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I just have to let you know, today looks like a beautiful sunrise in Johannesburg.
Really?
Yeah, you see, because I've been doing this for just short of 3 weeks now, and the sun rises a little earlier every morning now, and it's Lion King sunrise day today.
I'm jealous.
It's okay.
I'm jealous.
I have my little window.
I don't.
What's in the diary today? Busy day.
Yeah, busy day as always. So we start at the courts. The bail application of Muradi Cholota, the former personal assistant to former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, continues in the Bloemfontein Magistrate Court today. So now the defense for Cholota says they are dismayed with the decision of the court to decline oral submissions in the bail application. This after the magistrate did not allow for oral submissions from the defense. However, they are expected to be making written submissions, which the magistrate says are more clear than the oral submissions. So Cholota is among the accused in the 255 million rand asbestos roof removal scandal, which dates back to 2014. In another court matter, the High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear from former President Jacob Zuma and the MK Party's legal challenge against the use of the term Government of National Unity by the SABC. Now, the matter had to stand down yesterday on Tuesday, to afford parties time to file the necessary papers. So in its urgent application, the MK is asking the High Court, amongst other things, to declare the conduct of the SABC as unconstitutional and invalid, alleging that it breaches the SABC's independence and public mandate. So the matter is set to start at 11:30 this morning. Now, in other news, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is set to deliver the State of the Province address in Katlehong today. The SOPA also marks the official opening of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. In sad news, the funeral service of late Mamkhoni Chume is set to be held at the Oasis Life Family Church in Davidson today. It's set to take place at 8 p.m. So the Gomora, Zone 14 and Black Panther actor died at the age of 72 at Garden City Hospital last week, Tuesday. And lastly, in some international news that you did mention earlier, the World Health Organization has declared the highly infectious disease, Mpox, a global health emergency. So since the beginning of the year, more than 13,700 cases and 450 deaths have been recorded in the Democratic Republic of Congo alone. Meanwhile, here back home, the National Health Department says there is no need for public concern. However, the public is urged to remain vigilant. South Africa has confirmed 24 cases of Mpox, 12 of which were reported in Gauteng, 11 in KZN, and 1 in the Western Cape. The number of deaths is still at 3.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting story because obviously we have to. What was the term that the local government are using? No concern.
No concern at the moment.
Don't be concerned. But then you hear it's with the World Health Organization saying it's very worrying.
Yeah.
It's this fine line between how careful do we need to be? Are we going to go back to being stuck in our houses for 3 weeks?
I hope not.
All right, so we'll find out from a scientist later on what this means for all of us. Eva, thank you very much.
Cool.
Eva Chipper with our news this morning. She'll be back with headlines at the bottom of the hour, full bulletins at the top of the hour every hour here on SAfm.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
Okay, let's look at your weather. Big warning. Orange level 6 warning. Damaging waves resulting in danger to navigation at sea expected between Cape Agulhas and Port Edward today. There's also yellow level 3 warnings of damaging waves leading to disruption of small harbours and ports expected between Cape Agulhas and Alexander Bay. And then there are yellow level 4 warning for damaging waves leading to disruption of beachfront activities between Port Edward and Richards Bay. Pretoria, Johannesburg, Vereeniging today, going to be fine. Pretoria 9 to 24. Johannesburg 8 to 22. Vereeniging 8 to 23. Mbombela is partly cloudy, 16 to 24. Polokwane fine, 3 to 22. Mahikeng fine, 3 to 26. Vryburg also fine, -2 to 24. Bloemfontein fine, -1 to 20. Kimberley fine, -1 to 22. Uppington fine, 4 to 26. Cape Town today is fine. A light and variable wind this morning, otherwise a moderate southerly to southeast. 9 to 18. George is fine. Light and variable wind this morning, otherwise moderate northeasterly, 5 to 20. Gqeberha is partly cloudy, a moderate westerly, becoming light easterly in the afternoon, 9 to 19. East London, partly cloudy, a moderate westerly wind. It'll become light northeaster in the late afternoon, 10 to 18. Durban's partly cloudy. It'll become fine in the afternoon. A moderate to fresh southerly wind to southwester. It'll become a light easter to southeasterly later on, 14 to 22. Richards Bay is cloudy, becoming partly cloudy this afternoon. A moderate southerly to southeaster. It'll become easterly to northeasterly in the afternoon, 17 to 23. And Pietermaritzburg today is partly cloudy from a low of 8 to a high of 22.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
Thailand's Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin has been removed from the office. A court ruled that he had violated the constitution. Tembisa Fakude is a director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, a global government analyst, to tell us a little bit more about this. Tembisa, good morning. Why was the Prime Minister removed from office?
Well, he was removed from office because the government claims, or at least the courts claim, that he employed one of his members of his cabinet, a lawyer who was once jailed before, and because of that he contravened certain rules on ethics, and that was the reason that's given, and that's why they decided to pull a carpet under his feet. Still doesn't make sense to many of us who live in countries where you have a lot of people who had such cases in the past, but they still continue as politicians. Apparently in Thailand, if you've ever had a brush with the law or spent time in jail, you are not allowed to serve in government. But even that, if the Prime Minister decides to appoint you, he, as in this case, will be regarded as has violated the code of ethics of governance in Thailand.
I think the interesting point is you put the emphasis on the courts there. That's important here because these courts are making big decisions in Thailand, aren't they?
Yeah, not long ago, I think it was almost last week, the entire cabinet or government was also collapsed, charged with something similar. So this is not the first time that it's happening. The same courts moved that one of the popular parties at the moment in Thailand, which is Move Forward Party, and it won most seats in the last year's elections, was also banned from politics, and its leaders banned for 10 years. In other words, not going to be participating in Thai politics for the next 10 years. So we know who's the boss actually in Thai politics, and how do you keep in favor with the courts if you want to continue being the leader in the country.
All right, so who is the boss?
Well, the boss, of course, is the king. It's a kingdom,
right.
But the courts follow the instructions of the king. One doubts if they will make any decision like this one, which is totally undemocratic, without the blessing of the king, to collapse a government or dissolve a government which had popular votes, and you ban its leaders for the next 10 years not to participate in elections. For me, suggests that there's some other interventions here which are meant, of course, to continue control and direct the Thai politics in a certain way.
Tell me about the former leader Thaksin. He's a media mogul. He seems to have finger in a pie here as well.
Yes, he does, and he seemed to be ambitious. He wants to come back. He has always had a bit of control, notwithstanding that he's been out of the country, if you remember, after he was indicted and kicked out in almost the same way, and his assets confiscated inside the country, but he somehow managed to renegotiate his political life and career back. And he has got ambitions of coming back and being the Thai Prime Minister. He was one of the most popular, by the way, and one of the main one who went and promoted Thai foreign policy, which was something that wasn't that popular in the past. Thailand is known for a lot of other things, including its tourist destination and its kingdom, which has been very dictatorial in terms of its political and foreign policy direction. But under Thaksin Shinawatra, this was not the case. So he is ambitious and is likely to come back. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
It seems as if his youngest daughter is a likely candidate for president here now, or prime minister.
Yeah. Well, if his youngest daughter is likely to be the prime minister, it means that Thaksin himself is coming back, right, because he's likely going to be pulling the strings behind the scene, as has always been the case. And he has been accused in the past of pulling the strings of other politicians, hence his political wars with the government. But it seems now that he has kind of mended fences, particularly with the courts and the judges, who unfortunately most of the time tend to direct the politics of Thailand into a different direction. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. If his daughter does indeed win, it means that we're going to be seeing him back in politics in Thailand.
Go back to the king. They have this undermining the monarchy rule. It's that is being used quite a lot, I guess, by the courts and, as you say, through the king. How important is that you can't say anything bad about the monarchy?
Well, yeah, it's still the case. You can't say anything bad about the monarchy. The monarchy still rules very supreme in Thailand. They've got the powers to dissolve all the stratas of governance, including judicially, by the way, and because of that overarching and overimposing power that the king has, it kind of deprives Thailand of basic democratic freedoms that many people, whenever they go to elections, hope will be installed in that country. The king still remains the most powerful, and without the blessing of the king. So it might not be directly getting involved in politics, but we see the confidence of the judiciary in terms of its liking, preference of the political, that in most instances is best instruction from the king in Thailand.
You're breaking up a little bit. Let's try one more time. How involved are the military in all of this? Is there was a coup back in 2005 when Thaksin was ousted by a military coup? Oh, we seem to have lost. Okay, we've lost Tembisa Fakude. Tembisa, you there? All right, we seem to have lost Tembisa Fakude.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, all right. Let's try one more time. How involved is the military in this? There was a coup back in 2005.
The military is the instrument and a hand that is often used by the king to impose its political direction in Thailand. So right. Thailand is, to an extent, a dictatorship, and politics are by and large dependent on the liking and the preference of the king, and the military is 100% working with the king in terms of making sure that there's political direction and foreign policy matters of Thailand. So no one can do much actually without the military. The military is the executive power of the political at the moment in Thailand.
The ousting of Shreta Thavisin, he was going to have a digital wallet handout scheme of $13.8 billion. He seemed very popular at the time. Is there more to this? My question is do the people want him to be in, and this is just the royalty that are getting rid of him because they disagree with him?
Well, the party, the Move Forward Party was the most popular party, which was chosen by the people almost a year ago. That party was dissolved. Its members kicked out of parliament or even ambition of forming a government. So it's the same as if there's something amiss between the military, the king, judiciary, and Mr. Shreta at the moment, and this is why he finds himself in this situation.
How does this affect the world? Because Thailand, large manufacturing, a lot of things made in Thailand, and the people of Thailand.
Well, it's not going to affect or no, it's going to have any impact because, there's certain politics in Asia which rely much on what China dictates, and in this case what we see happening, we see a close working relationship and a continuing warm relations between the king and Beijing, and as long as that happens, nothing is going to be threatening any of the countries in Southeast Asia.
Is China pulling the strings here?
Likely, that's what many people are saying, but if you look at the business between China and Thailand, increases all the time. Relations are quite warm. The tourism in Thailand is booming, as you know. So economically, the country is doing quite well. You've got small little spots all over the country that seek more expansion of egalitarianism, but because of countries such as China, Thailand continues to do as it pleases when it comes to democracy.
Right, interesting story. Thank you very much, Tembisa Fakude, Director of Africa-Asia Dialogues and Global Governments Analyst. What do you make of Thailand's Prime Minister Shreta Thavisin being removed from office after a court said he violated the constitution? He appointed a lawyer that had served prison time to the cabinet. He appointed to the cabinet a lawyer who had served prison time. What do you make of that? Give us a call. As always, 086 000 2032 is the phone number. Love taking your calls, and you can send us WhatsApp voice notes. That number 0614 104 107. Say it again, 0614 104 107. Zai is here with sport in a minute. Rob Byrne has your traffic. We're also going to get an update on your business with Ntawleng, see what's making news on the markets, and then we'll talk to Outer in a bit. They've accused the Department of Transport and Road Traffic Management of misleading the public. We'll find out why after headlines at 6:30.
News making headlines for this hour. Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stau says the partnership between business and government has broadly been recognized as successful. The aim of the collaboration was to address the country's energy, transport and logistics crisis, as well as crime and corruption. In other news, Limpopo Premier Dr. Popi Ramathuba says the troubled Thabazimbi municipality faces major financial liabilities, owing Eskom more than 270 million rand and Mahali's Water 190 million rand. The Premier announced after a special executive committee meeting in Polokwane that the Thabazimbi municipality has collapsed and will be placed under administration. And lastly, the community of Everton West in Sebokeng says they hope that law enforcement agencies will bring justice for the 3 learners who died on Monday from suspected food poisoning. I'll be back at 7 with more news. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning. Let's start things off with cricket. Proteas skipper Temba Bavuma calling for ruthless batting as the Proteas are eyeing a first series win. And this is the second test against the West Indies starting today. After the drawn first test, Bavuma acknowledged frustrations with the weather but emphasized the importance of a traditional and measured approach to Test cricket. The Proteas will assess conditions before naming the starting 11, with Dane Pitt and Nandre Berger under consideration. The match kicks off at 4 p.m. Protea skipper Temba Bavuma.
I think from a batting point of view, probably the batters just being a lot more ruthless. The guys who got the opportunity to get in, to really go on and get a big score for the team. That always obviously gives us a lot more time from a bowling point of view. Then I think from the bowlers, the bowlers did as best as they could considering what was in front of them. It was a miraculous effort from Keshav, basically bowling half the overs of the innings.
Moving to more cricket news, India have appointed former South Africa Test fast bowler Morne Morkel as their bowling coach. Morkel will assist the World Cup winning Indian batter Gautam Gambhir, who took over as the team's head coach last month. The duo had previously worked together at the Lucknow Super Giants in the Indian Premier League and the Durban Super Giants in the SA20. Soccer news, and South Africa will open their qualifying bid for the next Africa Cup of Nations semi-finals with a home match against Uganda in Soweto. That's on Friday, the 6th of September. The opening Group K match will be played at the Orlando Stadium with a 6 p.m. kickoff. Bafana will then travel to Juba to meet South Sudan on Tuesday, September 10th in a clash that kicks off at 3 p.m. The top 2 in each group will qualify for the 24-team final, except the group in which the hosts are placed, where only one other country besides Morocco go through. Soccer action, Kylian Mbappe scored on his debut as Real Madrid beat Atalanta 2-0 to win the European Super Cup last night. Uruguayan Federico Valverde put the European champions ahead after 59 minutes with close range, and French striker Mbappe fired the ball into the top corner from Jude Bellingham's pass to double the Spanish side advantage 9 minutes later. Real clinched a record 6th Super Cup crown to move ahead of Barcelona and AC Milan, who have each won the annual match between the Champions League winners and Europa League champions 5 times. Here's Jude Bellingham.
I thought he was amazing before, and now I've got the chance to play with him. You know, you see the details a little bit closer, the speed, the quality. the work without the ball, the way he is as a leader, he communicates, and I can't speak highly enough of him. Really, it's a big step for him. Obviously, people have been talking about him coming here for a long time, and it feels like he's been here for a while. He's settled right in. It's a great team in terms of that. It's a great dressing room for welcoming players. And
moving to the Spark Proteas coach, Jenny van Dijk says she's looking forward to seeing new captain Kanisa Chwane lead on court with veteran defender Carla Pretorius as her vice-captain. Van Dijk added that leading the Proteas will also give the vice-captain Pretorius an opportunity to leave a legacy when she decides to retire.
Captains on court, because that's where they lead from. But in saying that, we've got Carla as a vice captain, and she's just done such a formidable job over the past few years. She's such a fantastic player, and she's such a great mentor to these young players. Carla, she's played a long time, and she's put her hand up and said, you know what, I will help Casey and I will help this team as we exit. Not that she's exiting now, but as I'm getting ready and prepared for the future in order to leave a great legacy behind. So even with her, I'm quite chuffed with the two captains that we do have at the moment.
That's the Spark Proteas coach, Jenny van Dijk. Let's go to golf now. Victor Hovland knows he's struggling this season on the greens and he's putting the work to overcome the situation. Hovland acknowledged that his performance this year has not been the one everyone expected from him and stated that he's putting the necessary work to correct his game both technically and mentally.
Yeah, it hasn't been my best year. Had struggled for basically the whole year, so it's been a little bit challenging, but I feel like I'm headed in the right direction, and just kind of pumped about that. Just seeing some improvements in practice, and hopefully that will translate into this week, because I do need a nice week this week, and hopefully get some momentum for the next couple of weeks.
More sport here on SAfm Breakfast. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAfm.
Good morning, Tauling Lachela, business reporter. Some inflation numbers coming out. Let's start in the US.
That's right, John. Now, consumer prices in the U.S. eased to 2.9% in July from 3% previously. This was in line with market expectations. Now, this is the first time prices have slowed below 3% since 2021. Some notable changes include a 0.4% rise in shelter, including rent, and this accounted for nearly 90% of the rise in the CPI. Food prices, in the meantime, gained 0.2%, matching June's rise. On a month-on-month basis, inflation ticked up 0.2% last month after falling 0.1% in June. Now, this report follows the Producer Prices Index, where we also saw a mild increase in prices. This suggests that inflation in the U.S. is now back on a downward trend, and this should allow the U.S. Central Bank to focus more on the labor market amid growing concerns of a sharp slowdown. Meanwhile, bets for a rate cut have risen. A survey revealed that 59% of traders expect a 50 basis point cut, while 39% expect a 25 basis point cut.
And numbers in the UK also coming out?
So it's a different story playing out in the UK. Consumer prices on that front rose to 2.2% in July. This is the first time inflation increased this year. The increase in prices was expected, though, and this happened because because gas and electricity costs didn't drop as much as they did last year. The increase, however, was smaller than many experts thought it would be. The Bank of England expected CPI to rise to 2.4% in July and reach around 2.75% by the end of the year, as the effect of those sharp falls in energy prices in 2023 faded. It only expects prices to return to its 2% target in the first half of 2026. Now, this print has boosted bets for another cut from the BOE, with 44% of traders surveyed predicting a cut next month. Despite the increase, though, consumer price inflation in the UK remains lower when compared to the Eurozone, where interest rates were already cut in June. It's also lower than in the US, where interest rate cuts are expected to start soon.
And what's happening in the markets this morning?
Well, John, the mood remains positive as inflation prints come in softer than expected, further fueling those rate cut bets. In Wall Street, markets ended off the previous session in the green, with the Dow Jones taking the lead. Over in Asia, a busy day for those traders, stocks in positive territory on the back of upbeat GDP figures from Japan, just adding onto the positivity fueled by that US CPI print. Moving over to the JSE, it's green across the board, with the all-share closing yesterday's session 0.55% higher. That was boosted by a 1.4% increase in the financial 15. In currency action, the rand has hit a 1-month high on the back of the upbeat data. It's sitting at 18.05 to the dollar.
Ntaulang Lechela, thank you very much. More business in an hour's time.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
Your geyser would have hot water, but some people overloaded the transformer with their illegal connections. You're late again, and the robots don't work. Some people vandalized it for copper. The whole community doesn't have electricity because some people have been bridging meters for a small fee, and now the transformer has exploded due to overloading. Don't allow illegal connections by criminals to inconvenience you and your community. Report criminals to ESCOM on 0800 11 2722 or the SAPS. Save your transformer. Save lives.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
It's 18 minutes to 7 with SAfm Breakfast. I'm John Gericke. Good morning to you. The organisation undoing tax abuse has accused the Department of Transport and the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, of misleading the public. Let's find out why they say that with Advocate Stephanie Fick, Chief Legal Officer at the organisation undoing tax abuse, or ARTA. Advocate, good morning. Why do you say we're being misled?
Good morning. Because we can't find the research that they based their findings on, that we need to, renew our driver's license cards because of communicable diseases. When the minister and RTMC said that right in the beginning, it just sounded funny. I mean, I don't know how many people were like going, what? And we wanted to know, on what do you base, is there a scientific reason why you say this? Because then we can have a conversation about it and see, how we can assist. But in our quest to find this research, it appears that there is no research. So the only conclusion one then can draw is that, they are being disingenuous with the public.
Two reports. One was done in 2022, which suggested extending the validity of driver's license cards from 5 years to 8 years. That one do you have?
That one we have. We were struggling to get it, so they weren't very forthcoming. But eventually we got that research, yes.
Okay, then they said that we're going to supersede that with something else. What is that, this report that you say you're not getting?
Yes. Let's start at the beginning. We had conversations with the minister saying, why do we have to renew our driver's license card every 5 years? If you go look internationally and you look at the trends, what you will find is other countries renew their driver's license cards anything from 8, 10, 15, there's even countries only every 20 years. So we had this conversation saying, can't we look at extending this renewal period to 10 years. Minister Mbalula at that point said, but okay, let's do research. And that was the initial research that found that like motor vehicles, the extension of the validity committee extended to 8 years. And then all of a sudden, the new minister, who is now the previous minister of transport, said that no, they're going to keep it at 5 years because of communicable diseases. And that is what threw us off totally. I think each and every motorist will agree with me. Renewing your driver's license card is like pulling teeth. It is really an administrative nightmare, and it wastes time. And having that extended to 8 years may save us a little bit of time, and hopefully it will also give room for, the department to get their administrative processes in order.
Yeah, I've got 7 months to go till mine needs renewing.
Good luck.
This thinking of communicable diseases, as you say, we go, huh? What? Is there any sort of explanation why they're using that?
None at all. That's what we wanted to find out. I mean, we don't always want to fight with government. And if they make certain decisions, one would like to understand. Because at the end of the day, this is about making it easier for motorists. I'm sure the government will agree. I mean, they don't want to invent processes to make it, worse for motorists, for example. But apparently it seems that there's... I think what we are thinking is that there's a different reason behind it, because using communicable diseases and not having really the scientific research to back that up, what possible reason can there be to keep the renewal of driver's license cards at 5 years? What? And I think the thing that we can think about is someone is making money. Every time your card gets renewed, it's money going back to RTMC, and maybe that's the reason.
This has all got to do, you suggest, with this new card printing machine tender?
It has taken them so long to get this tender done and dusted, and I don't think it's done and dusted yet, that has to print our cards. And one just have to wonder, and I blame the government for putting us in this position, always questioning and finding reasons why, because they hide reasons from us. But maybe it's got something to do with this, this new card machine. Maybe it's a question of they want more money. So again, one has to, looking for reasons. The only conclusion you can draw is this is about money. Somewhere, someone is making money.
The ministry or the request you've been asking for, they've cited Section 43(2). This is refusal of access to information by the public. Why would somebody deny this kind of information?
There's silence because I really don't know. That's a different struggle and maybe a different topic to discuss at another time. But that's your promotion of access to information. Yeah. We tried to get this both reports. The first report we got eventually. This is research that was done in 2022, and we only got it now. And this new research that speaks to the communicable diseases, they then say, I also think, because of that trust deficit, it is their way of trying to just not share information. And we get that a lot. Instead of being transparent, instead of saying, you know what, we're proud of the work that we do, here is the research, they come up, and I want to call it trump up reasons for not giving you, access to information. And they can use any of the sections in PIA, that's the promotion of access to information legislation, and, say we can't give it to you because it's confidential. And it's worrying that we are where we are in this country, 3 years of democracy, and we're still struggling to get transparency, because transparency is so important for accountability.
You've written to the new Transport Minister, Barbara Creecy. What does she say?
Oh, no, I haven't heard anything. We will be a bit patient because we do realize that it's a new office and maybe there's a lot of people that want to speak to you. But yes, we did ask her, can we talk? And let's resolve this. We need to make this easier for motorists. We need to beef up the administrative process. Can't this whole process be digital? Can't we go to our own eye care specialist or make it possible for people to receive that service in the public service and do a lot of it online? There's a lot of solutions, but it is about government putting the ear on the ground and listen to civil society, listen to businesses, listen to people that maybe have a solution, and hopefully the new minister will listen.
Advocate Stephanie Fick is the Chief Legal Officer at the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, or OUTA.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A couple of big ones to avoid this morning. There's been a major crash coming through Pretoria on the M1 South. It's happened between SAfm and the Stormful Road exit. Most of the lanes are obstructed there. At least 3 lanes obstructed when we last checked in on that. It's a very heavy backlog of traffic on the N1 South this morning, backlogging through SAfm back towards the N4 Rustenburg Highway and back towards Pumalani Plaza, so avoid it. The first point you could really come onto the highway would be Stormful Road. Otherwise, a reroute off the highways and trip off the N4 down through Pretoria North options. That'll get you away from that. It's a very heavy queue. It's a big queue as well from Montana on SAfm down towards the N1 highway. And you meet all the traffic coming off the highway trying to beat the crash delay, and they're just jamming SAfm out towards Mulatto Road. So heavy on the highway and heavy on the local routes in the area as well. A couple of issues to be aware of on Solomon Mshlangu Drive. If you're coming from Silver Lakes through towards Pretoria East, very heavy big queues just past Linwood Road, and then you've got lights out on Solomon Mshlangu, Delphi and Gilder, causing some additional delays there as well. If you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, having left Durban, a truck is overturned just before Hammersdale. Most of the lanes are closed. That's a big queue backing up towards Peacevale, Cliffdale area, Pietermaritzburg bound. If you're Durban bound, a breakdown at Linfield Park, causing some delays with the queue back towards the Ashburton area. And Cape Town, roadworks on the N1 outbound at the Justenburg off-ramp. There might be some lane restrictions on the main carriageway as well, because the N1 going out towards Paarl is a heavy queue from Brackenfell through Kraaifontein and out towards that Justenburg off-ramp, and then you'll get there and find the off-ramp is actually closed. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late on.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to John Gerika on SAfm.
Find out more about these transitional relocation areas in Alexandra. Back in 2020, the city of Johannesburg earmarked these TRAs to ease congestion in Alexandra. This is during the COVID-19 pandemic. 1,600 people were meant to be housed in converted shipping containers. The city has spent 97 million rand, and now only occupants of that facility are people who live there illegally. Tapela Mohapi is the General Secretary of Abahlali Basim Jondolo to explain this to us. Tapela, good morning to you. What is going on with this housing facility?
Good morning, John. Good morning to the listeners. Well, once again, it is the failure by the city of Johannesburg to actually provide direction in as far as this part of development that is has now had a loss of someone else. It is because these transitional houses were built some time ago and were supposed to be allocated to people. And desperation, because people are out of desperation in Alexander, moved into these houses. And the only thing that comes out in the open and in the media is when people come and move in, but it is not said why people decided to move in after the city has not given direction in as far as allocating the people and the actual beneficiaries that were supposed to be part of the transitional housing.
Right. So it took a long time for these things to be built eventually. Now they're sitting there, they're sitting empty?
Exactly. And this is partly because there are some people in the council who want to use this for their own benefits, to actually give it to other people who can pay them and so forth. So when development prolongs, it is because there are some politicians behind it who want to use it for other purposes rather than to actually give it to the people who are in need of it. And hence people then, out of frustration, been living under difficult conditions, and then decides that the only way is to actually move into these transitional houses. We are not for people who occupy developments or any transitional housing, but if government can give direction and give us a list of people and allocate the actual beneficiaries. I mean, these things happen everywhere. We find people out of frustration, and houses, RDP houses have been built for years and they are left vacant. And you find that in the allocation process, people are not allocating the actual people who were supposed to benefit out of those. And hence you have people moving in by force as a result of that.
Tapela, you say people in council are using it for their own use. Who are these people in council?
Well, I'm talking about officials. I'm talking about some of the ward councillors who are not even supposed to be any close to these things. When it comes to some of those things, ward councillors, politicians are not supposed to be part of it. But in some instances, there are people who are colluding with the officials. Because some of these officials are actually deployees of a certain political party who are in charge of the municipalities, and therefore they want to allocate people of their choice. Sometimes it's people that have paid for these. I mean, we've had instances recently, and one can now mention this in Cato Manor, where people have admitted that before even a development takes place, before you have a foundation, people have already paid for development that other people have not even known about it, that was going to take place. So this is deeper than the media understands it.
The city has said all housing matters should be referred to the Department of Housing, going up to national. What's your response to that?
Well, that's one thing that we need to fix in this country, because particularly when it comes to metros, there is that detachment between the national government in human settlements as well as those that are in the metros. Sometimes metros receive grants directly from national, and they have their own developments. And we do agree that that should happen. However, there needs to be a very clear understanding, because some of these development may take place with municipalities without the understanding of the national governments. That can work better if the two spheres of government in terms of human settlements are working together and connected together and understand each other.
Tapelo, what's the current state of this transitional relocation area?
Well, at the moment, we have not got the information, except, of course, the fact that there was a life that was lost.
Yeah,
there has not been a feedback, in fact, from the municipality, according to our members in Johannesburg at the moment.
All right. So, are they going to? I'm imagining the residents will then continue to protest and demand that at least some people are moved in here legitimately.
Yes, of course. The call on the ground is that people continue to protest. People continue to demand that the rightful owners of these transitional housing are actually put in place, because this have been prolonged, and as long as this is prolonged, people continue to live under undignified conditions because they were affected. The transitional houses were built because it was a matter of urgency. Now, if it takes years for people to be allocated, then it's another story.
Tapelo Mahapi is the General Secretary of Abahlali Basa Njondolo, telling us about that TRA, Transitional Relocation Areas. Let us know what you think. 086 000 2032. Coming up in a bit, VBS shareholders are trying to resuscitate VBS Bank, and the bench, a host of organizations have come together looking for justice for the people of Jagersfontein, where their tailings dam collapsed a couple of years ago. Still nothing there. We'll find out why after the news at 7.
Top stories for this hour. Dow speaks on the partnership between business and government, and Tabazimbi municipality to be placed under administration. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Parks Tau says the partnership between business and government has broadly been recognized as successful. The aim of the collaboration was to address the country's energy, transport and logistics crisis, as well as crime and corruption. He says there has been progress under the various work streams. Tau was giving an online update from a meeting convened by the President with members of Cabinet and business leaders.
Yesterday was really the first meeting since the elections and the establishment of the Government of National Unity. It enabled us to reflect on where we've come from, but also what the way forward is between both government and the private sector. And a collective expression of confidence of the work that's been done was expressed yesterday, but also a commitment to working together going forward and identifying further areas of collaboration.
Limpopo Premier Dr. Popi Ramathuba says the troubled Tabazimbi municipality faces major financial liabilities, owing Eskom more than 270 million rand and Makhali's Water 190 million rand. The municipality has also failed to pass the 2024-25 financial budget on time due to political infighting. The Premier announced after a special executive committee meeting in Polokwane that the Tabazimbi municipality has collapsed and will be placed under administration.
The municipality is currently operating with two separate structures, claiming to be the council, further exacerbating the governance crisis. The municipality faces substantial financial liabilities, including a debt of over 270 million to Eskom and the ongoing legal proceedings initiated by the Makhali's Water Board to recover outstanding payments of over 190 million.
The community of Everton West and Sebokeng say they hope that law enforcement agencies will bring justice for the three learners who died on Monday from suspected food poisoning. The three siblings attended the Everton Primary School. The local councillor in the area and the Gauteng Department of Education has visited the family to extend their condolences. Councillor Ritabile Hlakani.
Go tlile bohloko haholo
really community Everton West.
We are very saddened as the community of Everton West Extension 11 following a tragedy that occurred in the Mokhatla family. We have formed a combination as the community to assist the family in any way, and we hope that the police will do justice and arrest the perpetrator.
In other news, Defence Counsel Charles Mnisi has accused retired police cell phone data analyst Lamberto Steyn of fabrication after saying he forgot parts of evidence in the Senzo Moyiwa murder case. Steyn, who is expected back on the stand this morning, has been recalled to testify at the High Court in Pretoria to clarify two alleged phone calls between Moyiwa's girlfriend Kelly Khumalo and accused number 5 Ezokuhle Ntuli prior to the 2014 murder. Mnisi says Steyn is merely making up evidence to try and link the accused to the singer.
I'm putting it to you that this did not happen because you forgot. This happened because you wanted to formulate, conjure, fabricate, come up with non-existent evidence to falsely implicate accused number 5, to look as if accused number 5 on this day did have a conversation with the number that ends with 4358, but it is alleged that it belongs to Kelly Khumalo.
And lastly, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a huge international mobilization effort after the World Health Organization declared Mpox in Africa a global health emergency. He was speaking exclusively to SABC News in New York just hours after the WHO declaration in Geneva.
This is a great concern. And obviously, we fully trust the World Health Organization, but we now need to make a huge effort of mobilization. Mobilization of the country itself and the region, but mobilization of the international community, because resources will be needed, capacities will be needed, and we need to bring quickly into the area all the instruments that are necessary to contain it. First of all, for the people not to suffer, and then for the disease not to spread.
Recapping the top story for this hour, Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Parks Tau says the partnership between business and government has broadly been recognized as successful. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
So heavy Thursday around Pretoria today. A major crash scene on the N1 South between Sefaka-Makato and Stormful Road. It's a really big backlog. The traffic now back towards the N4 Rustenburg Highway ramp as you come through Doornpool Plaza on the N4 on that ramp to the N1. That's where you'll pick up the queue all the way through to Stormful. Crazy traffic off the highway along Sefaka-Makato's motorists get caught trying to get on or off the N1 highway. Sefaka-Makato from Montana down to Moloto Road absolutely jammed, and then the Baviansport option very slow as well. Pretoria East, I'm not sure whether it's a power failure, but there's hardly a light working on Linwood Road coming through Simon Vermoon towards the M1 highway. Also Solomon Mshlungu down towards Olympus, that's heavy. Solomon Mshlungu at Delphi, there's no lights there, and between that and the N1 there's also a breakdown on the N4 at Vartameyer Street heading in, so it's already heavy. Truck overturning at Hammersdale just before Hammersdale on your way from Durban to Pietermaritzburg. That's a really big queue of traffic, hardly anything getting through. You might want to elect to use the old road. And if you're driving out of Cape Town, the N1's heavy this morning. There's a crash at Brighton Road at Kryfontein, roadworks at Justenburg. It's a big delay that starts right back almost at the R300 direction Paarl. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports Headlines. Let's go to this rugby rivalry as it's Lucanio Arm teaming up with Jesse Creel for a dynamic centre pairing against the Wallabies. And in cricket, South African captain Themba Bavuma urging his team to prioritise making big scores. Let's find out more at around 7:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
I love it. Rugby rivalries within the Springbok team. The Springboks are challenging themselves. That's kind of how good they are at the moment. Yeah, go for the Springboks. Presidency has postponed the signing of the Health Compact. It was rejected by Business Unity South Africa. We're going to find out why. This has all got to do with the NHI and the wording of this new compact, and it supports the NHI Act in its current form. Business Unity not happy with that. We're going to find out why with the CEO designate in a bit. And then the VBS shareholders are trying to resuscitate VBS Bank. They say to not listen to media reports, listen to them. So we will speak to them. We will speak to the secretary of the VBS Shareholders Forum, Robert Levoy, and we'll find out what they're going to do differently this time around. After being burnt the first time, can you get investors to invest into a new or an updated or resuscitated VBS Bank? And then later on today, we're going to look for justice for the people of Jacobsfontein. They are still waiting for justice there. They're calling the government to ensure that justice happens in the Free State there. We'll talk to the Civil Society Tailings Working Group. And later on in the show, we'll explain to you why there is load reduction in some parts of Johannesburg, and also Mpox. That's the big news that's making worldwide news. Is it something for us to be really worried about? And when you see the World Health Organization getting involved, saying it's an international issue, we'll find out why. We'll talk to a professor in communicable diseases later on in the show. Welcome to the SAfm Breakfast.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Expresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For super fast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Expresso and TV licenses and paying yours.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
SAfm. Prime time all day long.
It's 12 minutes past 7. You're with SAfm. Let's talk about this NHI issue, and a health compact is what they're calling it. The presidency postponed the signing of this yesterday after South Africa's biggest association of employers refused to sign the agreement which endorsed the National Health Insurance Act in its current form. Khulekani Mate is Business Unity South Africa's CEO designate, joins us now. Khulekani, good morning to you. Why doesn't Business Unity want to sign this compact?
So the compact does not reflect what was discussed at the health summit earlier, which it is meant to essentially be a summary of and reflect the agreements that were reached at the summit. And so we felt that we could not sign a document that doesn't do that, and we asked government if we could get a chance to engage again until we reach a draft that we could be comfortable with. In particular, the document made reference to, in fact, it became kind of an implementation of the National Health Insurance plan, if you like,
And so we felt that, our position is known, that we have concerns about the National Health Insurance Act, and that we could not sign a document that binds us to its implementation until we have reached agreement and have a piece of legislation that we are comfortable with.
So initially, Business Unity was happy with strengthening the public health care, but this new compact is focusing on the NHI. That's what you find the problem.
That is correct. So we have no difficulty with signing a compact that really reflects actions and undertakings that relate to strengthening the entirety of the public health system. But the drafting of the document then created or made the NHI as the key instrument to strengthen the public health system or the health system in general. And we've said in the past that we do not believe that the NHI is the right piece of legislation to achieve the goal of universal health coverage, which we are very committed to. Hence, our indication to government that we request an opportunity for further engagement on this draft compact so that we can have a document that we can sign and that we are comfortable with.
The NHI Act has been promulgated already. Is this not bolting or stabling the horse after it's bolted?
No, so it has been signed into law but not promulgated. In other words, it has not come into effect.
Okay.
So the president would need to indicate or promulgate when the act in its entirety or parts of it will come into force or into effect. That hasn't happened. Even if that has happened, legislation gets amended pretty much all the time, and so nothing is lost. It can be amended. That is why we're not giving up on still calling for engagement on the NHI Act, because as it stands, it's unimplementable, it is unaffordable, and it is complex and creates opportunities for maladministration and actually risks hurting the health system. And so that is why we feel pushing ahead with implementing something this complex, this big, and this risky is really not a good idea.
Are you not slowing down universal health care for South Africans by refusing to sign it?
Well, except that even if the president were to say that all of the NHI comes into effect tomorrow, nothing is going to change in terms of the experience that South Africans have of healthcare, because there is simply no funding to fund any health system any differently. And that's why we really want to engage on a way in which we can implement universal health coverage that does not have the difficulties that we've pointed out about the National Health Insurance Act.
Yeah, it sounds almost as if they're steamrolling this NHI implementation. And does it matter that that Business Unity South Africa is not behind this?
We would hope that it does, and we were encouraged by what the President said during the opening of Parliament in his address there. He indicated a willingness to engage on the part of the NHI that we're still in contention. And so we read that to mean openness to engagement. And we have reached out to the government, in particular the Minister of Health, asking for an engagement. So we're hoping that there is that openness and realization, by the way, that something this big just cannot be run. The public sector doesn't have the capacity for all manner of reasons. So actually, if we want to do something that works, and this has been demonstrated, we need to use all of our resources as a country, public, private, everything. And so trying to push ahead without getting the consensus of all the different parties in society is exactly what will slow down achievement of universal health coverage.
The president's saying that the signing has been postponed by a week. Will you get this negotiation done in a week's time?
Well, we hope so. I mean, there is a draft on the table. We have a set of comments that we prepared, and so it shouldn't really be that difficult. But it is obviously up to those around the table to find each other and get to a draft that is acceptable to all parties.
Khulekani Mate is Business Unity South Africa CEO designate. Thanks very much.
The Rockets know how magical 3 points is in football. They want just that in their own backyard this weekend. But Gunners want to deny them any joy as they are in dire need of victory to escape from the uncomfortable territory. Mpumalanga battles it out with Eastern Cape. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. TS Galaxy Queens FC versus City Lads Ladies FC, the Sunday 18 August at 3 p.m. live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You could get a great deal on your car insurance premium when you call Outsurance. Be like 53-year-old Neo, who pays only 1,059 Rand to insure his white 23 Ford Ranger XL DC with Outsurance. Get a quote now. It's easy. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
Going to get an update on justice for the people of Jagersfontein in the Free State. But let's go to the north now. VBS Shareholders Forum are trying to resuscitate the VBS Bank. They met on the 13th of August, it was a couple of days ago, to plan the continuation of the campaign to bring back the bank. How will things be done differently? Let's talk to the Secretary of the VBS Shareholders Forum, Robert Livoyi. Robert, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and how are you?
Fantastic. What's going to be done differently with VBS Bank this time around?
Yes, we are continuing doing our meeting and consulting all the stakeholders in connection with the arrangement of bringing back our bank.
What's going to be done differently this time?
To happen is that we are going to apply for a new license.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and all right. Maybe you're not understanding me, Robert. VBS Bank collapsed last time because of the way things were run. How will it be different this time?
If you remember the history of VBS from 1985 until 2016, it was running smoothly without any problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we recognize that only the reckless people came, and then in 2016, from there the bank collapsed. So which means it was hijacked, and it was a mission that was planned.
So how will you prevent that from happening this time? Because the point is, the bank can only work if people invest money into it. So how do you convince people that that won't happen again?
And because banks, if we say the monitors of the bank is SARB, South African Reserve Bank. So we trust them that they are going to do their job. You'll remember VBS was also monitored by KPMG.
Mm-hmm.
KPMG is a big company. So to pass through the KPMG, then you must know that there was a plan that was done, which KPMG was part of it.
Why do you need a new VBS Bank? Why bring it back? Why resuscitate it?
It was a special bank of its kind, which our people still need it. And I will tell you that all the people in South Africa, they need a model of VBS Bank, because it was cheaper for them to bank with, and it was also accessible to the need of the people in rural. So that on its own, all these other banks cannot do. So that's why I say it is a very important bank which need to come back.
You've got buy-in from the Limpopo Premiership. Are other politicians getting involved in supporting you here?
Yes, if you listen to what the secretary of ANC said from the Likuta meeting. So you have the clips of those meetings, and also the speech which the secretary gave after the meeting.
All right.
So some of the things are still under process, but as time goes on, you will hear what is going to happen.
Robert, we've got Billy in Limpopo wants to talk about this morning. Billy, go ahead.
Yes, John. Look, it is the role of the Reserve Bank to save all banks in this country. Now, it has done that in 1986 with the former African banks, like United Bank and others. It has given them a billion rand to establish ABSA. Now, even this VBS, you see, it was the fault of the Reserve Bank itself not to alert what was happening there. And then the Reserve Bank must take full responsibility. It is not out of the making of the people of Denda that the bank has collapsed. And now that there's evidence that the bank was actually hijacked by certain criminals, they must pay the price also. The money must be recovered, the assets must be attached, and that bank must be resuscitated. Thank you very much.
Billy Limpopo. All right, you got some support there, Robert. That money that's now being recovered slowly but surely from the VBS Bank theft that happened, is that going to the resuscitation of this VBS Bank that you're talking about as the shareholders forum, or is that a completely separate thing?
As I indicated, there is a plan which is still under process. We cannot talk about the plan now, but we are continuing having meetings, and we will keep in touch with you so that you can tell our people what is going to happen. But there is a process that is being cooked. So if we give it a time, and we will come back to the media and everybody to tell them that this is what is going to happen.
You say in a statement, you're sending a message to all of those who lost their resources with the collapse of the bank to avoid being used. Don't take any news without their leadership whom they've elected to lead them. What do you mean by that?
In fact, what we mean is that we are receiving a lot of calls from different people. Some of them are supporting us, and some are going behind our back. Then they issue information that they are going to meet with who, and they are going to resuscitate the bank. I mean, we cannot. I mean, not everybody can come and say he's going to renovate your house that was burned without talking to you, the owner of the house. So what we were saying is that all the people who wish the bank to come back and they need to support, they must come to us, and they must tell us their plan, and we must combine the plans together and work together. You cannot issue a statement about BS when you
Let's go to Stephen Centurion. Quickly, Steve.
Yes, sir. I think really they need to appoint the right people to come and sell the bank so that the investors can see that there's a potential. Not just to have people who said, no, we are the shareholders, therefore everything is about us. The gentleman that is talking there, you ask him 3 times, how are you going to sustain the bank? How are you going to make the bank that it is sustainable? How are you going to do something that you didn't do last time when the bank collapsed? He never answered you. So me as a shareholder, I'm discouraged. It doesn't work like that. Get the right people to come and represent the bank on the radio who can answer the questions. Because I cannot make sense of what he's saying.
All right.
You asked him 3 times, but he never answered you. Bring the right people who can come and sell the bank. Thank you very much.
Stephen Centurion. Robert, what do you have to say to that?
No, I understand the listener, what he's saying. And what I can say as a response is that I even mentioned that we are still doing, remember, the government is involved. We are involved. So we cannot divulge things that are not final. We have to finalize everything. We have people who lost money there. We haven't yet given them the other report. That's why time and again we will go to the media so that we can indicate what is going on and even issue the warnings of things that are going wrong. So, of course, we are not bankers. We are shareholders. So when we talk about the bank, when we open the bank, automatically you will have the staff and you will have also the post that will be advertised. People who are capable will apply and then we'll tell the people what is going on. But we are not going to open the bank ourselves and run the bank. We cannot run the bank. That's why I indicated that the reckless people who came, they find the people who were running the bank correctly, and then they remove the team of the people who were running the bank, and then they recklessly corrupt the bank. So now we cannot say tomorrow we are going to open the bank. No, that's why I said there are many processes that need to be followed.
All right, we look forward to you telling us about those processes. Robert Lavoie is the secretary of the VBS Shareholders Forum. This story is something we will keep a close eye on, and we'll take some of your calls on that as well. I see the phone lines have lit up, which is fantastic. 086 000 2032. Coming up in a moment, the people of Jagersfontein are looking for justice, and why are only 11% of Alex customers paying for electricity? We'll find out after news headlines at 7:30.
EU is making headlines for this hour. The High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear former President Jacob Zuma and the MK Party's legal challenge against the use of the term Government of National Unity by the SABC. In other news, Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stau says the partnership between business and government has broadly been recognized as successful. The aim of the collaboration was to address the country's logistics, energy and transport crisis, as well as crime and corruption. And lastly, in some international news, thousands of Indian women have taken to the streets in West Bengal in a midnight protest against last week's brutal rape and murder of a young female doctor in the eastern city of Kolkata. I'll be back at 8 for SAfm News. I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Oh, it's becoming a very busy Thursday. Some major problems around the country. One is this major crash on Pretoria's N1 South before Stormful Road. It's between the Montana on-ramp and Stormful Road. Now, the highway is backed all the way through the Pumalani Plaza and back to the N4 Rustenburg Highway. So that by itself is heavy. And then you've got some really major delays between Montana and Moloto Road on Sefako Makato, and then the Babiansport Road, the alternative route from Sefako Makato heading south parallel to the highway, if you like. So highway busy and the side roads are busy. Staying in the capital, there's a breakdown on the N4, the Emelefeli Highway, just after Vartamere Street. That's pushing a queue back to Simon Vermuten. And then you've got lights out all over Linwood Road, coming through from coming through from Solomon Mishlangu, through Linwood Manor, Linwood Ridge, right the way to the highway. You've got lights down on Solomon Mishlangu as well, around Pretoria East. And in the middle of all that, you've got a major police roadblock going on as well. So major disruptions. Pretoria East, there's been a crash on the N14 to Pretoria at the Brakfontein interchange. Quite heavy backlogs to the R55 Pretoria West exit. Collision on the N17 between Boksburg and Germiston, just approaching the Osborne Road exit. Quite a heavy queue, Joburg bound there. One to avoid, the N3 going out of Durban up to Pietermaritzburg. A massive truck is overturned before Hammersdale. It's a queue that extends right back to Key Ridge. Consider the old road, the R103 Hillcrest, Drummond, Buotis Hill. Come on at Inchanga. Come back on at Cato Ridge. You've got plenty of options there. And Cape Town, a breakdown on the N2 into town just before Hospital Bend. The N2's heavy from the airport. The M5 struggling to get in. That's pushing a queue on the M5 back as far as Parkwood area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. I feel sorry for the Wallaby centres.
Oh, they are going to be...
Shame, man.
They're going to be ambushed.
I get it. Ambushed.
Yeah,
Nice.
you get it?
Clever.
Yeah, because he's bringing his ammunition. Okay, I'll stop. It's the Rugby Championship clash between the Springboks and the Wallabies. Exciting centre pairing of Lucanio Am partnering with Jesse Creel for the first time. Amo missed out on the initial World Cup squad, later was called up, and he will play at inside centre alongside Creel, who has cemented his place at outside centre over the last year. Both players confident in their complementary skills, with praising Creel's world-class ability as the Springboks face a much-changed Wallabies lineup. Is eager to gain line dominance and help create space for the backs in what promises to be a high-intensity match.
Playing alongside a world-class player like JC would be really amazing. I think he's an experienced player, and also me playing 12, having the understanding of a 13. I think we will complement each other, both sides of the ball. Yeah, I think it's from set piece, where it's very position specific, and then when it's general play and kick counter and defense, it's pretty similar.
Cricket action, South African captain Temba Bavuma urging his team to prioritise making big scores rather than batting quickly. They'll prepare for the second test against the West Indies starting today, 4 p.m. The Proteas will assess conditions before naming the starting 11, with Dane Pitt and Nandre Burger under consideration. Soccer news, South Africa will open their qualifying bid for the next Africa Cup of Nations semi-finals with a home match against Uganda in Soweto on the 6th of September. Their opening Group K match will be played at the Orlando Stadium from 6 p.m. Bafana will then travel to Juba to beat South Sudan. That's on the 10th of September in a clash that will kick off at 3 p.m. Netball, Spa Proteas coach Jenny van Dijk says the Proteas have begun their camp to prepare for the upcoming Spa Challenge taking place in October at Ellis Park, followed by the African Cup of Championships towards the end of the year. Now, the coach Jenny van Dijk says the outcome of the two tournaments will set the tone for the 2027 Netball World Cup in Sydney.
As alignment, super important. We need everybody on the same level. We need to see eye to eye. We need to figure out as a group together. We know where we're going. We've got all our plans set out. Our organisation is worked out up until 2027. We know what we need and we know what we need to get done. But now it's to make sure that everybody buys into the product, because at the end of the day, I will be on the side and those players will be on court, and they are the ones that needs to grind and get us into a middle position. And at the end of the day, you know, they need to buy in and they need to believe in the product that we're setting out there for them. So this is such an important final alignment
And finally, golf. Victor Hovland's decline this year has been a major storyline in golf after strong performances in major championships over the past 2 years and a FedEx Cup titles. He seems ready to elevate his game. Now, aside from a third-place finish at the PGA Championships, his results have been disappointing.
I feel like maybe I've been an underdog in some way my whole life, so I guess I'm kind of used to that position, but it's not something that I think about too much. I'm just trying to control the things that I can control. I know that I've slipped up a little bit this year. I haven't been playing as well as I would have liked, and I'm just working on the things that I need to work on to get back to where I was last year. And then I believe I can do some great things again.
More sport on SAfm Breakfast. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAfm.
Taoleng Lechela joins us again. Morning, Taoleng. UBS finally getting some profit from Credit Suisse?
Morning, John. That's right. Now, the takeover of Credit Suisse, just one of the factors boosting UBS's performance. During the second quarter, Switzerland's biggest bank delivered profits of over $1 billion from about $528 million. This was due to successful cost-cutting measures, increased revenue through its global wealth management and investment bank units, and the integration of Credit Suisse. Now, analysts have applauded the results considering the state Credit Suisse was in when UBS bought it. This took place, if you remember, last year when the banking crisis hit the States. It further shook things up in Europe, and Credit Suisse was caught up in some scandals, and that saw its share price tank. There were a lot of regulatory concerns, and shutting down the bank was not an option. And so the Swiss government got involved, and they suggested that UBS acquire Credit Suisse. Now, this deal was the biggest merger in the sector since 2008, and we've started seeing UBS just making or banking profits since the first quarter of this year post that merger.
And Northern Plat's profits, what's happening? They got some numbers out.
Platinum miners, right, John, have struggled to just keep their head above water, being battered by lower metal prices. And Northern Platinum, one of those miners, warning of an earnings plunge of up to 86%. This was mainly due to a 35% fall in the rand price for its metals, and comes despite a 7.3% increase in sales volumes. Now, the group warned that the current price environment may last for some time, and this, combined with higher general inflation, is placing pressure on the entire PGM sector. And so the group is prioritizing its balance sheet, looking at how it can protect it in an attempt to shield it from the hectic impact of the metal price fluctuations. The miner has decided to up its production, and analysts seem to like this strategy, with one analyst, Nedbank analyst Arnold van Graan, saying Northam's lower metal prices and growth capex would have weighed on free cash flows. However, the company's counter-cyclical growth strategy remains in place and is helping offset the impact of weaker PGM prices.
What's happening on the markets this morning?
Kicking things off in Asia, stocks in the green as more signs of cooling U.S. inflation ramped up hopes for interest rate cuts by the Fed. In addition to this, a slew of positive economic indicators from the region also aided sentiment. Japanese and Chinese markets were the best performers in the region after separate data prints showed Japan's economy grew more than expected in the second quarter, while Chinese retail spending picked up in July. With that, the Japanese Nikkei is up 0.7%, and China's Shanghai index gaining 0.8%. In Wall Street, futures also sitting in the green, with traders shifting their focus to U.S. retail sales numbers, which will be released later in the day. The positive momentum also filtering through to the local markets, with the JSE closing yesterday's trade up 0.55%. This was mainly fueled by the Financial 15 gaining 1.4%. The rand is making big gains, and it hit a 1-month high. It's currently sitting at 18.05 against the dollar.
Taoleng Lechela, thank you very much. More business with her in an hour's time.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business. Africa Update on SAfm.
Advocate Sipho Matula, good morning to you. Peace talks about Sudan. What's the latest?
Are underway in Geneva, despite that there was an absence of the Sudanese army, and at the same time the rapid support forces. Now what we see here is that you have a peace talks going on, but with the absence of the conflicting parties, and we still have a humanitarian crisis. Hence there is a need to call for this humanitarian access in some of the areas, and this Geneva peace process, we hope that as we have observers like the AU, you have the Arab Emirates, you have the UN observers who are part of this peace process in Geneva, we might find some solution, but it is important to have the fighting parties in that space, John, because it will be meaningless and fruitless, and it will render the peace process null and void. And hence, we have the crisis that also goes to the Darfur region in terms of acute hunger.
Yeah, tell me more about this group that's called, what did they say, the declared feminine?
That is now in the South Sudan, moving to the Blue Nile. The Sudanese People's Liberation Movement North, the rebel group, has said that there's a famine in that territory. And what are the push and the pull factors? It's the same Sudanese war of North that has caused the poor harvest, and also some of the humanitarian aid are being targeted by the fighting parties like the Rapid Support Forces, have caused some of the food not to reach some of the areas where we are sitting, with 656,000 people who are facing catastrophic hunger. And hence you have people in Geneva sitting and sipping wine and drinking and eating when people don't have food in the South Sudan, in the part of the Nile Mountains and the Nuba Mountains.
All right, Sipho, what's your take on the Mpox outbreak and World Health Organization getting involved?
You know, John, we have to be worried again when you have Tedros Ghebreyesus from Ethiopia coming out very clear, and the Africa Center for Control Diseases saying that the formerly known as the monkeypox virus has been driven by the clade 1B variant that is spreading quickly, and they've looked at 15 countries in the continent are grappling with this. 2,000 people have confirmed dead, and alone, John, when you look at the issues that countries that have not been affected so far in the East, you know, Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, have not yet reported cases, but the DRC has been one of those crises. Now, as you know, the elephant in the room, when you have such epidemics rising, John, or public health emergency, the vaccine becomes first. I don't know why we don't think of indigenous knowledge system or our indigenous herbs in Africa, John, when we know that this is a disease that emanated since 1970, and 2022 also highlighted that we might have it both in West and Central Africa, and that's how this Mpox, John, as it has been declared by the United Nations, by Africa Center for Disease Control. That's how we should also look at the solutions rather than being complicated about what happened during the pandemic era of coronavirus.
Zimbabwe getting support from outside?
From Sarajevo, Arab Republic, this is a message that came from Ambassador Pisita yesterday, paying visit to President Emerson Dambuzo Mnangagwa in the State House, saying, bringing the message from the President of Sarajevo Arab Democratic Republic, Brahim Gali, to President Mnangagwa, that they need to establish relationships on assisting Western Sahara or Sarajevo Republic. Remember that Mauritania, they've been in a confrontation with this recognition of Western Sahara, but now you see that they are moving towards the SADC and now moving towards Zimbabwe as the incoming chair of the SADC on the 44th summit that will be happening over this weekend.
And what's in your archives this morning?
She's still alive, John, at the age of 99. I don't know, me and you, will we reach 99? You know, this is a great woman who was born in Johannesburg but grew up in Zimbabwe. Trained teacher, went to teach in Natal and in Soweto. Joined the ANC at the age of 29. Also, this is a woman who was part of the government in 1994 when it was not fashionable to call GNU, John. It was the government of the National Unity of 1994. We are talking of Gertrude Shope, who was born on this day. I know tomorrow the Foreign Affairs or International Relations, they've always have an annual dialogue on issues of peace and security under the banner of Gertrude Shope annual dialogue. So we'll follow it probably tomorrow, John, to find what are the issues and tissues in the continent about conflicts and peace and the role of women. Asante Sana, as we're still leading the conversation, SAfm, observing the Women's Month.
Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you very much. We're going to take calls and messages in a moment. You can give us a call now, 086 000 2032.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our transactional banking solutions.
Accessing our transactional banking solutions means you'll get a dedicated manager from the country's best relationship bank. When you have a dedicated relationship manager, their business is to understand your business and its financial needs. By understanding all your needs, they can connect you with the right sector and product experts across 15 key African markets. You see, there's transactional banking, then there's transactional banking with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAfm.
You know what, Mr. Kharika? The funny thing about VBS is that I might be wrong, but I believe it should be one of the first, or if not the first, fully black-owned bank, right? Having said that, this is the very same bank that 100% collapsed without anyone noticing anything for a full how many years? 5 or 6 years that things were going south and nobody noticed it. And the people that benefited are politicians and obviously those crooks that they are claiming to have been a syndicate. This tells you, and then you bring someone that doesn't even know what is it that they're going to do in order for them to change things in the bank. I don't see this working. I don't. Thank you very much.
Plenty other WhatsApp voice notes that have come through on that topic. We'll take your calls as well. 086 000 2032 is the phone number. If you want to leave a voice note, always welcome. 0614 104 107.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it late up.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, Pretoria having a very busy morning. Some good news. The earlier crash on the M1 South, the big one before Stormfall, that's been cleared, but there is a backlog of traffic from Montana moving down towards the N4 Emelathleni Hatfield split. There's also on that N4 Emelathleni highway a breakdown before you get into the N1, so that traffic stays heavy coming through from Simon Vermooten. And off the highway, there looks to be a power outage along the Linwood Road option. Lots of lights down effectively between Solomon Mshlangu and the N1 highway. It's very heavy, particularly around the Linwood, Manor Linwood Ridge area along that section of Linwood Road. And nearby, there's a major roadblock on Solomon Mshlangu. So no pointsman assisting with the traffic lights, busy stopping everyone else on Solomon Mshlangu. So some very heavy delays there. The N14, the Krugersdorp Highway, heading up towards Pretoria, a crash before Brockfontein interchange. That is the high crash zone this time of the morning. It means a queue on the N14 from as far back as the R55 Pretoria West exit. Now there's some heavy pressure on the Mike 1 this morning as well from Boysons, making your way up towards Parktown, a little bit heavier than normal. And a crash coming in from Lenasia, that Eldorado Park N12 Potch Highway as you get through the bend onto the M1 North for a turn up towards the Golden Highway exit. One to avoid, going out of Durban to Pietermaritzburg. It's a major delay, a massive truck overturning between Cliffdale and Hammersdale. It's a heavy queue that extends right back into the sort of M13 Hillcrest Key Ridge area, so avoid it. Our advice this morning has been to use the R103 M3. Get off and get up through Hillcrest on the old main road, Buatas Hill, Drummond, and come back on it in Chunga or come back on at Cato Ridge. You've got a couple of options there, but get onto the old road and stay off the N3. And then Cape Town, very heavy getting out of town this morning towards Paarl. There's a crash by Brighton Road at Kraaifontein. That's pushing traffic back to the R300. And the R300 North coming up from Brackenfell to join the N1 outbound is pretty heavy. And the earlier breakdown, N2 inbound before Hospital Bend's being cleared, but it's left a lot of pressure N2 inbound and M5 North. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
SABC Sport, the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024, celebrates Team SA medalists.
A brilliant silver for Johan van Dijk.
The plan was to win a medal. That was the goal. So I'm just so grateful and thankful that everything went as it should. For me, it's to be an inspiration to all the younger girls in South Africa. There's so much power and passion. I think our South African women really have a lot of resilience.
For the love of the game.
The Serengeti, located on the northern part of Tanzania, bordering Kenya on the north and Ngorongoro in the south. Home to the African Big Five and millions of zebras, birds and other predators. Serengeti 2 returns to the unspoiled corner of the Serengeti for more animal drama. There's humor, heartbreak and nail-biting tension as new characters move in and familiar faces continue their stories. Channel your inner adventurer with Serengeti 2, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
6 minutes to 8, you with SAfm. Let's talk to the convener for the Civil Society Tailings Working Group. This is about the people of Jagersfontein in the Free State. Remember that tailings mine collapsed, leaving a number of people injured, caused havoc to neighboring communities of Charlesville and Itumeleng. 2 people were killed, 2 were missing, dozens injured. What sort of accountability has there been, Hassan Logat? Good morning to you. Any accountability so far?
I may say very little. I mean, we are thrilled when we see the minister and the premier and others talking about houses being issued, and of course, community people are questioning the quality of those houses. Right. I mean, ultimately, maybe I should take the line that seek ye the political kingdom first, and then all else will follow. We want the report first. What was wrong? How do we avoid such disasters? You know, and make sure that people can live in safety. We don't know whether a karate kick will bring those houses down, but we need to know whether it's built on good soil, how the land has been rehabilitated, whether communities have given all the promised kind of support that they were offered. But you know what's interesting, that this went to different fora. It was in the National Assembly, the portfolio committees discussed it, where they discussed the need for an investigation. All had different kind of words, you know. In fact, even a few months before the disaster, the mayor of the area basically warned there was going to be a disaster. You know, so for us as civil society, we find it rather tragic that it's close to 2 years and that no report has been forthcoming. Now, I know part of the problem we have with managing waste, tailings waste, is that it seemed to be governed by multiple departments. The Department of Water Affairs being responsible for checking the dams are safe. And then, of course, remining may fall into the DMR, Mineral Resources Department. Environment has a stake in it. So all of them were there. And all of us went down when the disaster took place. The media, fear and flum, we were there. But, you know, 2 years down the line, the media, and in fact, I'm thrilled that this morning your whole show has been about accountability, having Avathali and others accounting and raising issues. You know, the Human Rights Commission probably on the 15th of September in the year of 4 days or so after the disaster captured it very beautifully. They said that mining communities have been raising concerns about these type of issues, and that they are pleased that a government investigation will take place. So they didn't say the Department of Water and Sanitation must do the investigation, who themselves said they were going to do such, right? And then recently we learned that they referred it to the NPA for prosecution. Quite clearly, the public just wants accountability from the authority, and we point out that over in a few years ago in Brazil, in Brumadinho, you had 272 people died, and within 6 months they had a report, and directors were held directly responsible. But Jagersfontein Development, the company themselves, said that they will establish a private investigation. They're saying while it is too early to establish any reason for the collapse, the company has appointed an independent investigation team to understand the facts. So they themselves had one, and then they told the public in a media release at that time that they gave 20 million to help with indigency, food parcels, etc., etc. So ultimately, as in Cape Town, there was, and you've been reporting on it, there have been 2 mine disasters. No, sorry, not mine, dam disasters. Yeah. Dam. Now, this is exactly what we want. Those are, if you like, preferably or hopefully clean water. Imagine the toxins that the mines produce, what the dangers are.
Yeah,
so we have a public interest on this.
What are the conditions of the people living there? As you say, if houses are being built, are they being built on the tailings that have spilled onto the ground?
Well, apparently there was a cleanup, and we're trying to check whether the quality of this has been quite good. But as I say to you, when we do that, we're giving the government an easy pass, I mean, yesterday the Deputy President's office issued a media release to all, stating basically that they commended the Free State government for what they're doing, and that so we're going down this houses issue. Really, for true accountability, must start with the report. What happened? They promised forensic report. They promised these different groups will be doing reports. Ultimately, the public can't be held at ransom to say who's doing the report. We should have accountability.
So you got nothing yet.
We've got nothing. Not you. We all don't have anything.
Right.
Because if I had it, you would have had it.
Okay, so obviously you can only pressure as best you can. You sent out the press release. You're on the radio. What next?
Well, I was thinking of this just administrative action that is committed to by law, the PAJA Act. If government doesn't act by the time this anniversary comes, we'll have to think of instituting some actions because, you can't promise investigations and they seem open-ended because that is defeating the purpose. It's undermining the integrity and knowledge of the public. But I also call out the Human Rights Commission. They can say very boldly, they say to us, the investigation is expected to identify and recommend preventive, corrective and accountability measures to address the disaster. This is the Human Rights Commission that is supposed to support us as a Chapter 9 institution. So I ask them, if you like, call it friendly fire, they need to be there alongside us to demand accountability.
Hassan Lorgat is the convener from the Civil Society Tailings Working Group. That event happened on the 11th of September 2022.
You are listening to John Gerika on SAfm.
Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
Top stories for this hour. MK Party's legal challenge against SABC to be heard today, and thousands of Indian women protest against femicide. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. The High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear former President Jacob Zuma and the MK Party's legal challenge against the use of the term Government of National Unity by the SABC. The matter had to stand down on Tuesday to afford parties time to file the necessary papers. Zoleka Kodashi reports.
The parties argue that it's illegal for the SABC, an organization with constitutional obligations, to mimic what they term as an inaccurate and subjective term for the prevailing political arrangement. They add that the public broadcaster's conduct breaches their additional duties to be independent, objective and impartial. Zuma and the MK Party rely on various definitions of a government of national unity, which state that such an arrangement would follow a period of conflict or other national emergency, and that the current status quo falls outside the definition of a GNU and is a result of ordinary democratic outcomes.
In news just in, several highly placed sources have confirmed to SABC News that EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu will not renew his party membership. He has also requested to be released from all his duties in the party and in Parliament. Sources have, however, said Shivambu has requested the buy-in of the organisation on the implementation of his decision. The party and Shivambu will hold a media briefing at midday. The Gauteng Education Department has called on teachers and parents to create a safe environment for learners to open up about challenges they face. This follows an incident where 3 siblings from Everton Primary School in Sebokeng died from suspected food poisoning on Monday after allegedly eating food at home. They were declared dead at a local clinic. In a separate incident, 2 grade 8 learners from Zakane Secondary School in Ekurhuleni allegedly ate rat poison on the school premises. One died and the other still fighting for her life in hospital. The department spokesperson, Steve Mabon.
We encourage learners to reach out to professionals if there's something that is haunting them. We have a partnership with SADC, partnership with Childline. They need to reach out. I mean, SADC yesterday started the process to provide support to all grade 12 learners that we are preparing for the prelims, which are starting next week, on how to cope, stress levels, and also parents on how we need to support our children when they are going to be busy with their examination.
14 suspects are expected to appear in the Johannesburg Magistrate Court this morning regarding an illegal mine in Aikenhof, south of Johannesburg. The group of Zimbabwean nationals were arrested on Tuesday. Hawk spokesperson Lloyd Ramuva says tons of soil with gold-bearing material valued at over 2.5 million rand was recovered and removed from the scene.
The group was arrested on Tuesday. This followed a proactive, multifaceted operation by the police, and it followed numerous complaints from the community in and around Aikenhof about the existence of such facilities. The suspects are mostly Zimbabweans, and they are facing charges of illegal possession of unwrought precious metals, as well as contravening the Immigration Act and Environmental Act.
In other news, Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Parks Tau says the partnership between business and government has broadly been recognized as successful. The aim of the collaboration was to address the country's logistics, energy and transport crisis, as well as crime and corruption. He says there has been progress under the various work streams. Tau was giving an online update from a meeting convened by the President with members of Cabinet and business leaders.
Yesterday was really the first meeting since the elections and the establishment of the Government of National Unity. It enabled us to reflect on where we've come from, but also what the way forward is between both government and the private sector. And a collective expression of confidence of the work that's been done was expressed yesterday, but also a commitment to working together going forward and identifying further areas of collaboration.
And lastly, looking further afield, thousands of Indian women have taken to the streets in West Bengal in a midnight protest against last week's brutal rape and murder of a young female doctor in the eastern city of Kolkata. These women were among the protesters.
We women feel that at night our city is not safe and we want the freedom. For a long time we have suffered this sort of insecurity where we couldn't roam the streets at night, we couldn't go anywhere, even if there was some kind of emergency.
I travel by public transport every day and I get harassed each and every day. We have normalized this. I think enough is enough. Now it's time to rise out in protest, rise in rage, because this cannot go on.
Recapping the top story for this hour, several highly placed sources have confirmed to SABC News that EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu will not renew his party membership. He has also requested to be released from all his duties in the party and in Parliament. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SAfm News. I'm Eva Chipa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Your own panel beaters like your childhood friend. Been there through it all. You trust them. Outsurance gets it. That's why with Outsurance Essential, your claim is paid out in cash to use your own panel beater. Also get up to 1 million rand liability cover and other great benefits at a low cost. Outsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 rand and not financed. SMS CAR to 43187 or call 08 600 60,000 today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story now is the truck crash around the Hammersdale area, Durban to Pietermaritzburg. If you're on your way towards PMB, take the old road and avoid the N3. Truck overturning, it's a big one right across the highway before you get to Hammersdale. Traffic's all the way back to the M13, back towards Hillcrest and back towards the Key Ridge. Just after the Shongweni exit, you'll hit it. If you're coming out from Hillcrest before you even join onto the N3, you'll hit a queue. And there's enormous pressure on Cassia Road. Motorists seem to be coming out of the N3, aware of the problem at Cassia Road, Shongweni, and of course that's a big construction zone, so Hillcrest through to sort of N3, there's a lot of pressure around that Cassia Road option as well. Best route would be out of Durban, straight up Fields Hill, into the old main road at Hillcrest, and then right through to Inchunga or Cato Ridge to come back on again. It's a major delay. The other big hold up we're watching is the N14 towards Pretoria, a crash in Centurion, N14 east before the N1 Bruckfontein, that's heavy, and motorists driving out of Cape Town towards Paarl, there's some heavy traffic going on there. A crash before Brighton Road at Kraaifontein. Traffic on the N1 parked back to Old Oak Road in the Belleville area, and behind that the R300 that links into that N1 queue is currently parking back as far as Bottleray Road. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, cricket action, the Proteas batters are aiming to pile on the runs as rain looms over the second Windies test. And we also got the Wallabies. They're calling in the big names ahead of Saturday's Springbok rugby battle in Perth. Details at around 8:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 9 minutes past 8. I'm John Kerrick. Good morning to you. Coming up in a bit, we're going to talk about financing and support of intellectual property with South Africa's renewable energy surge. And the big headline at the moment across the continent and the world, I'm sure, is the Africa Centre of Disease Control and Prevention has taken the step about declaring Mpox outbreak sweeping through Africa a continental public health emergency. The World Health Organization getting in on that and saying it's international emergency as well. We'll see what implications that has. And can you believe it? 11% of Alex's City Power customers pay for their electricity. That's a good news story. I'll explain to you why in a bit.
Victory in the opening match always sets a good tone, and that's what the Gunners of London are gunning for.
They've almost scored! Kai Havertz! And Arsenal have won it later.
Meanwhile, the Wolves are on a real mission to howl for 90 minutes in search of essential 3 points.
Wolves have a second! And listen to the noise!
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling encounter between Arsenal FC and Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday, 17 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC+. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior. This Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy
Across South Africa, online and on radio.
SAfm, let's talk.
Let's talk about it. Electricity in Johannesburg to be particular. We get phone calls often, you'll have heard them, saying that load shedding is not a thing of the past, as we're being told. We're still losing electricity for 4 hours. That's something called load reduction, which apparently is completely different. And let's find out why that and a couple of other issues we're talking about electricity as well with Isaac Mangena, City Power spokesperson. Isaac, good morning to you. Let's talk about Alex first of all. Before the ad break, I said 11% of Alex's City Power customers pay for their electricity. That's a good news story. Explain why that's good news.
Good morning and good morning to the listeners. Yes, that's basically a good news story because you realize that we're actually moving from a zero base in areas such as Alexandra and other parts of the city where traditionally people were not buying electricity for whatever reason, including historical issues that were happening there, but also the social issues. So we basically started a program as City Power to start moving into those areas to ensure that we install the meters to customers that do not have meters for free, and normalize those that are either vandalized or they are malfunctioning to ensure that people start buying electricity. And we have seen in Alexandra from that zero base, or it is 4% of people that were buying electricity last year in late last year in November, to 11% that they have been buying by the end of this financial year, which is a good move and showing that whatever programs that we have put in areas such as Alexandra, Maibuye, we are actually starting to see some level of attitude change from residents, and also it's because of the awareness campaigns that we have put in with the councillors in those areas, who have been very helpful to push the message of responsible citizenry by our customers to ensure that they buy electricity and support the entity in terms of revenue collection, which in turn assist them to ensure that the lights are kept on.
Before we talk about the other 89%, that's prepaid electricity, so there's this extra 200 Rand surcharge. I guess they're not happy with that though.
Yes, of course, most of the city is not happy with that, especially those prepaid customers. But this is a necessary inconvenience, because if we're not going to do this, we will end up basically closing shop as City Power, because as I mentioned, we are basically in the red. We are sitting at about 10 billion rand in the red, and that is basically showing an entity that is not sustainable if we're not going to change how we do certain things. And this 200 rand is basically something that should have been implemented long time ago, because of the fact that other customers are actually paying for that. Customers who are on postpaid, customers who are receiving the bill at the end of the month, are paying about 900 rand of service charge and network fees, and those on prepaid have not been contributing to those costs of maintaining electricity or bringing electricity from the power station to the mini substation to the wall of the customer. So for them, it was a case of, I'm buying 100 rand units, I need to get 110 units. How the electricity came to my wall, it's none of my business. But your neighbor next door, who is basically on postpaid, was basically contributing to those costs, which is a bit unfair. And as such, we went to NERSA when we were negotiating for the tariffs of 2024-2025 to say we need to start implementing this, which was actually approved some years back in 2018. And NERSA agreed, and we had to basically also even do the cost of supply study, which basically proved that City Power is actually making a loss in terms of bringing electricity. And we buy this electricity from Eskom, by the way. We pay about 15 billion rands annually to basically get this electricity to the customers. So it can only be fair for those on prepaid to start contributing towards those costs so that we can actually stay afloat.
All right, so 11% have now got the prepaid meters. What about the other 89%?
So the 11%, like I said, it's only for the past 6 months. It means that we still basically going to continue in Alexandra in terms of the meter installation. It's an ongoing process because we haven't installed meters across the rest of Alexandra. In fact, as I'm talking to you today, we will be in East Bank and West Bank of Alexandra. That is on the other side of the Jackskey River. where we will be the eastern part of the HXK River, where we will be installing meters to 700 houses. And these are houses that in the past were not buying electricity. And most of these customers have actually been the ones who said, for us to have a reliable electricity supply, we really need to start also contributing, so that when we complain about cable theft, when we complain about a meter that or mini substation that blew up, we contribute to those costs, so that City Power does not have an excuse of not coming to repair or to replace some of those damaged infrastructure. So we're moving in today, as I'm talking to you. We'll be there. We will be going into 4 councillors' houses first, who want to lead by example, and also go to those East Bank and West Bank, so that we can cover the 89% that you're talking about. And I think it's really encouraging that most of these customers are the ones who voluntarily say, we want to basically make sure that we do this, and we're doing this across the city of Johannesburg. I can give you an example about my Buye in Midrand, which was not buying electricity for forever since it was established. And last year we ended up a program of installing these meters in my Buye, and we managed to basically collect about 90% of revenue by December. So you can see that bit by bit we are moving towards a new direction where customers want to basically start paying for the services.
Isaac, let's move west. Kaya Sands, you guys have been doing this operation where you're finding stolen cables. You found 13 illegally connected transformers. Tell us about that process.
Yeah, this is one of those extraordinary stories that we always bump into when we do this operation. So yesterday, in an informal settlement that is called Musawawa in Kaisent, we were doing an operation cutting off illegal connections, because the customers, especially businesses around Kaisent, are suffering because of these illegal connections. Half the time they don't have electricity because of it trips due to the overloading caused by this informal settlement. So yesterday we moved in there to remove thousands kilograms of cables from that informal settlements, and we found these transformers. So basically there was like an informal distribution of electricity network that was happening there. These transformers were hidden in enclosures of bricks that were built around them, so that people cannot see them, or authorities, when we come, we are not able to see those. So we managed to basically recover 13 of those transformers. Our risk department is investigating alongside the police whether most of those have been stolen from City Power or Eskom or even the farmers, because remember, some of those they look like those transformers that we normally find in the farming areas. So we are basically investigating that, and we are happy that we managed to make this breakthrough. But we want to basically get to the bottom of this, to get those who are leading these syndicates, because there are people that are selling electricity. So they are stealing this electricity from City Power, Eskom and other municipalities, and then they sell it in these informal settlements to the residents in those informal settlements. So yesterday we managed to get to this, and the police were basically after those that are responsible for this theft.
Isaac, we've got to move on, but just quickly, when you say that people are stealing electricity, that's one of two reasons. Either City Power is not doing their job and getting electricity to the people, or you're charging too much. What's the solution?
It's a bit of both, but to start with the first one, where City Power is not doing its job, as you say, to provide people with electricity. We are sitting with about 321 informal settlements in the city of Johannesburg on a last count. Last night you could have had another one mushrooming on the side of the road. But what we want as City Power, and it will work in our favor as City of Johannesburg, if we can be able to electrify all these 321 informal settlements. But there are issues like budgets that are not coming through for us to be able to do that. But most of this, as you will know, are sitting on privately owned land or on environmental hazard land like dolomitic surface, and even by the HXK River. So we cannot electrify those until the Department of Housing or Human Settlements has actually given us the go-ahead to do that. So where Kaisent is now, there is dolomite. The land there is dolomitic, but it's also private land, and we cannot obviously electrify them. But our wish is that we can do that, so that we can be able to have in our hands a list of the people that are supplied electricity so that we are able to increase capacity and also get some revenue from those people. So we're not able to do that. Those that are actually feeling the pinch that maybe electricity is expensive, unfortunately, it's also expensive to us as City Power. As I mentioned, that close to 20 billion is spent annually to basically buy electricity from Eskom. And I think it's a general consensus across the city. Minister of Electricity also indicated the problem of how electricity is expensive, and that's why some of the measures that we are putting together as City of Johannesburg is to come up with alternatives to electricity so that people can also start to see where they can spend a little of their money on issues like the solar, issues like battery storage, and also the gas that we are also planning to roll out to our residents who are not able to afford electricity.
Isaac Mangena, thank you very much. City Power spokesperson joining us this morning.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish, see if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Science of Life on SAfm.
Right, so we got this lovely renewable energy surge. We're putting in solar panels. We're putting in just about wind turbines all over the country. On my road trip I did earlier this year, I was amazed to see how many wind turbines there are. But what about the financing of that? And also the intellectual property that is owned by people. It's all very confusing. Guy Krige is the executive risk consultant at Escrow Sure. Talk to me about the financing of this, Guy Krige. How does it normally work? Does the government just hand over millions to somebody to build something?
Morning, John, and to our SAfm listeners. Thanks for having us on the show again. No, the government doesn't just hand over money to provide finance into these things. However, we've seen a Just Energy Transition Partnership, which is a kind of global partnership amongst developed nations who provide soft loans in order to help nations like South Africa transition to a greener and more resilient energy supply. And so what happens is private companies, not government institutions, but privately held companies will take advantage of this finance in order to build massive renewable energy projects in our country. And we've been waiting for the green light for this to happen. It's interesting that you mention that you've seen lots of wind turbines and other projects, but I think we've only seen the tip of the iceberg as a result of the new support from the Government of National Unity for the country's renewable sector. I think we're going to see an absolute explosion in this development, and as a result we're going to see job creation and additional energy supply capacity. And I think it's great for South Africa.
You mentioned a soft loan. It's always worrying when other people give you a loan. They might want something in return.
Well, they want repayment and they want to be involved in the investment and the growth of value in the sector, which I think we're going to see massive growth, particularly in South Africa, which has wonderful, abundant resources in the area of wind and sunshine, especially.
These companies now that are going to come in and build it, are they local companies, or are we finding international companies coming in and doing this?
It's usually a blend, John. There's local and international, and the benefits will definitely flow downstream into the South African economy in the form of employment and opportunities for South African companies. But much of the technology and the expertise comes from outside, both European and from the East. We see lots of Chinese companies involved in these renewable projects.
We keep hearing about base loads, Guy Cricker, and we've got all the coal in the world just about. We've got these power stations that are now being super efficient. Why do we need to make this transition?
Well, it's interesting to understand, and I'm not an energy expert. We more operate in the technology section. However, renewables do not provide base load. They provide primarily a top-up to the base load. However, with enough renewable energy online, we can reduce the pressure required to provide energy at peak times. So the coal-fired and our nuclear station don't have to provide beyond base load. They can be relied upon just to supply base power, and then over and above at peak times, our renewables come on stream.
All right, let's talk about that technology then. So a company comes in from Europe. They've got lovely new solar panel designs, which are very efficient. They want to put it in the Northern Cape. How do you protect their IP so that that's not, lack of a better word, I guess, stolen or borrowed by a local company that'll just reverse engineer the thing?
Well, it's not so much about protecting it from being stolen or borrowed. It's more about protecting the financiers of the project and the operators in the event that something happens to the supplier. And so safeguarding the OEM's intellectual property, i.e. their blueprints for design or their software involved in managing these renewable projects, is vital. So if something were to happen to them, the operators of the project would still have access through an escrow solution to be able to access those blueprints and continue to update and maintain their project and keep the lights on. It really is a solution to blackouts in the renewable sector, where we don't really have, we can't put coal into escrow, unfortunately.
You say there's a good thing with us lagging behind other countries in this transition.
Well, the advantage we have there is that we are benefiting from technology that's stood the test of time. Renewables are operating all over the planet, and so the technology that's finding its way to our shores is already tried and tested and ready to go. And so it works first time. And I think we're already seeing the benefit. I drove back to the Western Cape this weekend from Jeffreys Bay and was also astounded by the number of wind turbines along the way, and that's just a really good signal for our economy.
It sounds great, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. We got power stations, and parts of the country aren't great when you see the power stations and the smog and all that kind of thing. But when you go for a drive, you want to see rolling hills. You don't want to see rolling hills with wind turbines on them.
Well, understood. But our Just Energy Transition Partnership aims to reduce our emissions between 1 and 1.5 gigatons over the next 20 years, and that's good for communities who are struggling with air quality. And so perhaps our vistas have to be modified slightly with the addition of turbines, but I think that's a small price to pay for the benefit of health and well-being of some of our communities.
So take out the coal, put in windmills. It's better for our breathing. We'll live longer. So we suffer with you.
Exactly, John.
And just quickly, what is escrow? I know I introduced you as escrow. Sure. So where are you guys involved?
We're involved in looking after the intellectual property on behalf of the end users and the financiers, so that if something happens to the suppliers, that intellectual property, in other words, the designs, build schemes, specifications of all these projects, are safely held in escrow and until such time as something happens to the supplier. And if something were to happen, that intellectual property can be released to the end users, to the operators, to the financiers, in order to secure and protect their investment in the project. So it's just a means of keeping everybody safe within the environment of these rapidly developing projects.
Thank you very much. Guy Cricker is Executive Risk Consultant at Escrow Sure. It brings us to 8:30.
In news making headlines for this hour, several highly placed sources have confirmed to SABC News that EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has asked the party to release him from all his duties, including Parliament. Shivambu has been the party president since its founding in 2013. In other news, the 95 Libyan nationals arrested in a suspected military training camp in Masoi, north of White River in Mpumalanga, are expected to appear urgently at the White River Magistrate Court this morning. The foreign nationals were arrested at a designated security training camp following a raid by police and officials of the Department of Home Affairs a few weeks ago. And lastly, the High Court in Johannesburg is today expected to hear from former President Jacob Zuma and the MK Party's legal challenge against the use of the term Government of National Unity by the SABC. I'll be back at 9 with more news. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, the one to avoid this morning, and do take this serious, is the N3 from Durban up to Pietermaritzburg. A big truck is overturned just before Hammersdale. The traffic is extreme. It's all the way back to Shongweni, so just after Marion Hill Plaza is where you'll hit that trouble. Top end of the M13 as you arrive into the N3. Key Ridge from Hillcrest is also even backed up. Cassia Road is an absolute mess. Motorists coming off at Shongweni and travelling through that construction zone up towards the M13. So the options, and there are two, depends where you are in Durban. One is, of course, the Fields Hill, M13 Hillcrest, and then you split up Old Main Road, take the R103 up through Porters Hill and Drummond, up through towards Cato Ridge. The other one, if you're on the southern side of Durban, which may well be worth considering, is the N2 South and then the Umbumbula Road, the 603, and you come back on at Umlas Road. Both of those options will just keep you moving, keep you out of the traffic. It's a major crash and a major backlog heading towards Pietermaritzburg. And, of course, just something to keep in mind, once that scene is cleared and all that traffic has got through, particularly the truck traffic, it'll all arrive at some point later today into the single lane section at Van Riene's Pass, and that is going to be all sorts of fun and games. Other areas this morning, the bike one into Sandton stays heavy from Parktown, queues from Houghton Drive all the way to Greyston Drive. A little bit of a hold-up still on the N14 towards Pretoria, into a crash up at the Brockfontein interchange. And if you're driving out of Cape Town towards Paarl, just a reminder, there's quite a heavy backlog. A crash before Brighton Road in the Kryfontein area. N1 back into Belleville. Behind that, the R300 queues from Bottler Ray Road in the Brackenfell area up into that N1 outbound queue. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. Cricket to look forward to, some test match.
Yeah, well, rain may be in the forecast, but guess what? Proteas are ready to weather the storm, piling on the runs in Guyana. That's when they take on the West Indies' second test. At 4 p.m. is when the first ball will be bowled. Despite rain affecting the first test in Trinidad, several Proteas batsmen, including Tony de Zorzi and Temba Bavuma, the skipper himself, showing form, but just fell short of major innings. And there is rain again forecasted for the second test, with the Proteas aiming to build a solid total and take control early in the match. Rugby, the Wallabies now are bringing out the big guns for their upcoming clash with the Springboks on Saturday in Perth. Angus Bell returns to the squad at loosehead prop. Western Force scrum half Nick White also makes his first start of the 2024 season, partnering with Noah Lolesio at halfback. The Wallabies will be aiming for a more combative and accurate performance after a tough first test. That's according to their coach Joe Schmidt. With a mix of experienced players and fresh faces, the Wallabies say they're ready for what promises to be a physically demanding encounter against the Springboks. Now, rugby has forced Stellenbosch FC to move the home leg of their MTN8 semi-final against Mamelodi Sundowns to the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban. They will play the game on Sunday, the 1st of September at 3 p.m. because both the Donny Craven Stadium and Athlone Stadium are being used by Western Province Rugby, while the Cape Town Stadium will be closed to prepare for the Springbok test against New Zealand's All Blacks on the 7th of September. Stellenbosch FC, who are competing in a fifth successive cup semi-final, meet Sundowns in the first leg of their last four tie in Attridgeville. That's on Wednesday, the 28th of August. Sundowns are also shut out of their Loftus Versfeld home because of rugby matches on the weekend before and after the first leg. Cycling, and rookie road rider Pak Pieterse clung on to win stage 4 of the Women's Tour de France, with Demi Vollering taking second in a photo finish to conserve the yellow jersey. It was a first ever road race victory for the 22-year-old cross-discipline star Pieterse at her first Tour de France. The result lifted the Dutch rider to second overall and gave her the Best Young Riders white jersey as well as the polka dot climb jersey. Tennis action. Yuri Heka upset the fourth-seeded Daniel Medvedev of Russia 7-6, 6-4 to reach the third round of the Cincinnati Open. His next opponent will be the American Francis Tiafoe. Stefanos Tsitsipas, he fought back to beat Jan-Lennard Struff of Germany 4-6, 6-4, 6-3. And in the women's draw, the 11th seed Emma Navarro was dumped out of the Cincinnati Open after defeat to Mira Andreeva. The 23-year-old American Navarro, currently ranked 13 in the world, was defeated 6-2, 6-2. 17-year-old Andreeva, a true rising star of the women's game, was playing her first match of the North American hardcourt season. That's where we leave it on SAfm Breakfast Sport. I'm Zaikan.
The business update on SAfm.
Thank you, Zach. See you tomorrow. Let's go to the business with Ntawaleng Lechela, business reporter. Ntawaleng, was it yesterday you left the bad news for the end? Today you're leaving good news for the end.
You see?
Learning. Business confidence on the up. What's happening?
So morale within the private sector is improving. According to the Saki Business Confidence Index, morale ticked up to 109.1 points last month, adding on to gains registered in June. This, of course, comes as some level of political certainty returned to the table post the national election and formation of the Government of National Unity. Business sentiment got a boost from a surge in new vehicle sales and a more stable currency. However, it was dragged down by a decline in imports and a drop in international tourist arrivals. Zooming in on the print now, 6 of the 14 sub-indexes influenced the print negatively, 4 had no impact, and 3 had a positive impact. Now, looking ahead, Saki noted that having a more representative government has created a chance for the economy to grow and create jobs, but says reforms need to be put into place, otherwise the economy will stall and may get worse.
Retail sales on the up as well?
So South Africans seem to be shopping more, John. In June, retail sales ticked up to 4.1%, marking its 4th month of consecutive gains. Sales jumped significantly thanks to a big surge in 2 areas, including general merchandise sales and textile, clothing, and footwear sales. So it does seem like they're shopping for things that they actually need, things like clothes, and things like food, things that you get at your regular general merchandise or a corner store. So economists are saying there's some relief post-elections, which likely spurred spending, falling petrol prices and constant energy supply also boosting sentiment. Challenges in the meantime still remain due to high living costs, unemployment and tight credit conditions. There is some relief coming to the table as the 2-part pension system comes into effect next month, but FNB senior economist Diphamandla Mkhwanazi expects this to have a limited impact on consumer spending, given concerns about rising debt distress. Back to the data though, this outcome means that the volume sales rebounded in the second quarter, up 1.5%, implying that the retail industry will contribute positively to the second quarter GDP growth print.
And what's happening on the markets this morning?
So the JSE is set for another upbeat day. Traders will be digesting earnings from Standard Bank and coal miner Exxaro. On the currency front, the rand is on track to clock in 4 days of consecutive gains, this after touching a 1-month high boosted by softer than expected US inflation data. The rand is currently trading at just over the 18 rand mark to the dollar. Let's shift focus now to Asian markets. Those stocks edging higher, on track to close the day in positive territory. Traders there digesting upbeat Japanese GDP data and Chinese retail sales. In Wall Street, futures sitting in the green. Investors on that end awaiting retail sales data coming through later in the day.
Ntawaleng Lechela, thank you very much. Business throughout the day here on SAfm. We'll hear from Ntawaleng again tomorrow morning.
It's Elimination Week on the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the bottom 6 bake to stay in the competition. It's all about desserts as the contestants recreate their versions of a family favorite, warm and comforting pudding. But will it be enough to impress the judges and earn them a spot in the next round? That's the Tastemaster Junior, this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Temba's in the Northwest. Temba, you with the Northwest Human Rights Commission. What do you have to say?
Good morning, Rajon. How are you today?
Lekker, go ahead.
Right. I met that. I want to wrestle back to the head office of Human Rights Commission in the North.
Yep.
I'm from Lichtenberg. So my aim to get there.
Oh, sorry, sorry, Temba, I misunderstood. You want to talk? Sorry, you're not with the Northwest Human Rights Commission. You want to talk about them?
Come again?
I said you're not from the Northwest Human Rights Commission. You want to talk about them. It was my mistake. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. So I went to this the Human Rights Commission in Rustenburg because the station is there in the provincial office. Now the aim to get there was to say I'm a victim of crime.
Right.
Victim of crime where I stay, where the police don't respond to all my cases. So when I went there, I said no, because the Human Rights Commission, as I read in the Constitution, it tells me that it must protect and promote the older people. I'm all the older section people there. Now, I went there, then the commissioner was not there. He stays in Joburg. He left the manager. So he communicated to say, now, I want to invite him to our BSJ Foundation. The BSJ Foundation was formed. I formed it on the basis of saying older people here in the West State are under siege because of theft, rape, all those jazz, and the police don't do anything.
And have you reported it to IPID, the Independent Police Investigation?
IPID, John, I have more than 12 years in this and be under siege. IPID does not function, John. Does not function. Yeah, right. So now I even went to advise going to communicating with the provincial commissioner in 2012, far away than the place, to say now these policemen don't do their job. Of course, they don't know what should they be doing because they're not trained well to lead. Now the commissioner told me, as I reported to you now, please don't help us here. He wrote me a report to say now there is negligence and misconduct of the Itusen police where I am. So for the commission to go to the commission to say now, Human Rights Commission must come and help us here. And then I invited them here to our meeting.
And then?
The meeting came on, but then it was a fight back from the Department of Social Development where the foundation is registered there since 2021. So when the provincial office phone one man came to me and said, now, let us arrange for the venue in Itusen. So we went to the club center where we booked for them. The date was set on the 22nd of July.
Yeah.
On a Monday.
Okay, Temba, we're running out of time. What is the conclusion? What do you want to happen?
The conclusion is that the Human Rights Commissioner of the Northwest Province, me and Kunana, does not do what should be done. Because I waited a year and then instead of attending to our problems, I had 30 people to
all right, we'll keep an eye on that. Temba in the Northwest, the Human Rights Commission in the Northwest Province not attending to problems. Let us know if you have anything to talk about. 086 000 2032. Let's take some voice notes.
Good morning, Brajon. It's for the trucker. Brajon, business is there to make profit. These business people need to leave this NHI alone, because what is their interest is that they want to make money, they want to make profit, because they invest in these medical aid schemes. So let them leave the government to do what the government is supposed to do. Let them continue with their business and leave us alone, man.
Yeah, Mr. John Harika, why did you have to interview this VBS guy? Nah, man, the guy wasn't here to answer anything that you were going to ask. So why did you guys have to? These people are just lost. There's a lot of greed happening, a lot of doing what they don't know. I mean, like, do we really need this in our lives? He's so lost, he doesn't even know why he was here. Anonymous, Free State.
Morning. So, people are trying to resuscitate VBS. They are going to get a new license instead of just opening and rebranding a whole new bank so they can get away from this stigma. If they keep calling it VBS, if they keep coming to the media speaking about it, their new bank is not going to kick off, because no sane person would put their honestly hard-earned money into that bank. Open a new bank, let this VBS thing go. Say we're starting from the beginning. Call it Mashaba Bank, name it after me if you want. But if they're gonna resuscitate it, name it this way, and keep speaking about VBS like this, I'm gonna start questioning even their, I don't even know what to call it. Thank you.
That was earlier. Then we started talking about electricity this morning. Let's see what you have to say.
Good morning, John. I believe that ESCOM has to embark on the workshop, actually sending people out there to teach people and encourage them, give them reasons why they should buy electricity. In my view, that will improve the electricity supply, and more people will begin to buy electricity as long as they know and understand what impact that has on the economy and ESCOM. Thank you.
So now the term has changed from load shedding to load reduction. So how is load reduction different from load shedding? Can somebody please explain that to me? SK in Durban.
The way I understand it, load shedding is done in large areas. Load reduction is in smaller areas, based on how much electricity is being used by that area. So if you use a lot of electricity in a small area, then they load reduce. But load shedding is just so that they can keep the overall grid under control. At least that's the way I understand it. One more voice note, and then we got to go to traffic.
Hey John, you know, for me what's interesting about the issue of coal and renewables is that Europe and their friends, the US and them, they will come and say, you need to use renewables. Coal is not good for you. Oh, but you can give it to me. You know, because where are the trucks going? Where are the trucks that are at the port of Richards Bay going? Where is that coal going? Because they want to power their own industries, but we must use solar and wind, which does not power industries. Thanks, Bongi here.
Thank you, Bongi. We're going to be talking about MPOX after this.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
With a reminder about the major delays heading out of Durban to Pietermaritzburg. This scene will take some time to clear. It's a massive truck that's overturned. It needs to be righted. We'll probably look at a full closure of the highway at some point, I would think. If it isn't already, we can see motorists coming off. It looks like Peacevale, so trucks will probably be stacked, motorists diverted. But the upshot is there's a queue that extends from Shongweni, so just after Marion Hill Plaza. That's how bad it is. Just down the road from Marion Hill Plaza, you'll see the queue, and that queue then extends all the way up through Key Ridge, through Cliffdale, Peacevale, and right to that sort of exit at Cliffdale there. So it's very heavy. Don't want to get caught in that. Use the Hillcrest option, Fields Hill, into Hillcrest, up the old main road, R103, Bortis Hill, Drummond, and Chunga, Cato Ridge. Just do it that way. For your southern side of Durban, you might want to just pop down the N2 and then up the Mbumbulu Road, come up at the N3 Umlice Road and avoid it. And just keep in mind that once all this scene is sort of sorted out and all that big backlog of truck traffic finally gets moving, it's all going to arrive at the same time into Funrino Renans Pass, where there's only one lane open, going up towards Van Renans Village. That's already absolutely jam-packed, and it will be busy all day. We can imagine the result once all that big backlog gets through there. So it's a busy day out of Durban towards Johannesburg. Please drive carefully. Let's get you an update from Joburg. The Mike 1, when we last touched base, was quite heavy on the run through to Sandton. It still is this morning from Killarney, Houghton Estate side, all the way through to Greyston Drive. Coming southbound is quite heavy from Buccleuch in towards Marlborough Drive as well. The crash on the N14 driving to Pretoria, Brockfontein interchange, that scene has been cleared. Linwood Road still very heavy, lots of traffic lights out in the Linwood Manor, Linwood Ridge area this morning. And Cape Town, the crash on the M1 out of town at Brighton Road has finally been cleared. There is a bit of a backlog in that sort of Brackenfell area heading out towards Paarl, but the collision scene's out of the way. And there's a crash on Philip Kasana, the M3 inbound before you get to Rowland Street. That's causing some additional pressures on that top highway coming through from Hospital Bend. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAfm. Leading the conversation.
8 minutes to 9. Let's talk about the big story that broke a little earlier today. The World Health Organization has called Mpox a global health emergency. What does that mean? Professor Adrian Purin is the National Institute for Communicable Diseases Executive Director. Professor, thanks very much for joining us. Are we worried? Are we shutting the country and the world down?
No, on the contrary, we should not be panicking, just as we didn't with COVID-19. It's a similar principle as was done with COVID-19. In fact, as you know, there's been and continues to be a multi-country Mpox outbreak, which started in 2022. It was declared a public health emergency. In fact, it was de-escalated last year in 2023. Obviously, the events now in the DRC in terms of the numbers and the multi-country spread obviously has focused minds in terms of how this should be controlled and managed, and that's the whole purpose of this particular declaration, is to ensure that this outbreak is stemmed in terms of ensuring that there is resources available, human and financial and other resources, to try and see and understand this epidemic or this particular outbreak in the DRC and its spread. We know that Mpox is not the same as COVID in terms of transmissibility. It's much less transmissible. But what has changed, if anything, in this particular setting to lead to the larger numbers that we're currently seeing? Therefore, how do we control it in terms of managing cases, ensuring that there's financial and human resources to understand the epidemiology and intervene appropriately, ensuring that there are medications available if there are, and of course vaccines, which we do know are available, but again, that may be a bit more of a complex area. But it's really starting off with, for example, ensuring that we understand a bit more about this particular outbreak that's currently happening compared to the broader multi-country outbreak. So for South Africa, there's no need to panic, but I think we still need to be vigilant, given that we have had cases. Certainly, it's a different clay to what's currently in circulation in DRC and the other countries.
All right, you used the word clade. What do you mean by that?
So in other words, if you have a set of zebras and you look at the patterns, this particular pattern that we're seeing is a so-called clade 1. That's probably the main cause of circulation in the DRC and the surrounding countries, whereas the multi-country outbreak that started off in 2022, or probably earlier, was a clade 2, for example, and clade 2 is thought to be less pathogenic, as it were, or caused in severe disease, although, as you've seen in South Africa, specific individuals who are more susceptible have more severe disease and case fatality rate, whereas clade 1 is thought to be possibly more transmissible, although that's not clear and evident, and as well as the case fatality rate is thought to be high. But again, I think you just need to bear in mind that we don't always have the necessary information, the denominators and the laboratory diagnosis to really come to that conclusion, but it's thought that the current evidence points to a high case fatality rate in the current outbreak in the DRC and surrounding countries.
There are vaccines. Mpox has a vaccine. Why is that an issue? Do we have enough or we just not enough vaccines again?
So I think that will be the concern again, as happened in COVID-19. There are certainly vaccines available. But again, you need to be cautious which vaccines to use, especially in individuals who have immune deficiencies. But again, it's going to be the availability. I noticed Africa CDC, in their declaration of a situation of an emergency situation the day before, had some high numbers, about 10 million doses, if not more, that's required, whereas the donation received was obviously insignificantly less than that. Again, applying and how to utilize the vaccine, I think, will obviously have its own complexities. So I think the other areas in terms of identifying cases, prevention of further transmission, I think those are going to be the key, and obviously the diagnostics, those are going to be the key epidemiological tools that we need to have available to stem this particular outbreak.
All right, okay, maybe back to basics. Mpox, what is it? How do we get it, and how can we prevent ourselves from getting it?
Okay, so Mpox is a virus. It used to be known as monkey virus. It was previously thought, it is an endemic in various countries in Africa. With there is some human-to-human transmission. But I think what occurred from 2022 onwards is really the association of Mpox in terms of particular social and sexual networks, where there's a high degree of transmission between individuals. So it's really close contact, and that's in the context of sexual contact, for example, that you will have the particular spread. But again, it's not as transmissible as, so for example, COVID-19. So close contact, including face-to-face contact, so it can spread by aerosolization. It has a longer incubation period, 5 to 21 days. It then presents with some typical symptoms, such as fever, backache, and so forth, and not feeling unwell. And then the rash appears. And the rash can either be a single pustule or to multiple pustules. In fact, the more immune deficient you are, the more likely you're going to have a severe disease, and that requires, for example, as you've seen in South Africa, hospitalization. So again, it's really critical that the public and the healthcare workers are aware that this can present typically as other conditions can be presenting, but have a high index of suspicion, especially in terms of particular social and sexual networks and specific events, in order for people to be diagnosed, for example, HIV, and so they can go on to treatment. So it's really a broader approach. As I said, I think for the general population in South Africa, no need to panic, but I think it's very important that we provide the necessary healthcare services and messaging so that we can reach the necessary target groups, so we can ensure that transmission can be prevented.
You mentioned this big incubation stage, 5 to 21 days. I'm sure that's a worry, but it was like COVID. If you got a little sore throat, you had to go get tested for COVID. Do you see that happening, that if you're getting a little sore throat or something, that you might have to get tested for Mpox as well?
No, I think that's been one of the problems for us in South Africa, is that what we've been seeing is really the more severe cases. So we've not seen that intermediate group of individuals who have had that single blister and gone to check themselves out, or multiple blisters and had them tested, and then they're not severely ill. So we are trying to ensure that we can improve our sensitivity in identifying cases in order for us to stop transmission, because once you see it at that end stage, it means that there's a whole number of other individuals out there who have the disease or the infection and are transmitting, but are not presenting themselves to healthcare workers. And it's important to notice that healthcare workers may be missing the diagnosis, so it's really important that the healthcare workers become more aware of this particular condition and try and spot it, to ask the relevant questions, to ensure that we make the diagnosis and prevent transmission.
Professor Adrian Pure, thanks very much. Executive Director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. Don't panic, he says. Okay, we won't panic. You're with SAfm. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Again, we'll chat to you again tomorrow morning. Thanks very much to the team for putting the show together. Kathy's up next. It's 9 o'clock.
Top stories for this hour. Floyd Shivambu planning to quit the EFF, and MK Party's legal challenge against SABC to be heard today. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. Several highly placed sources have confirmed to SABC News that EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu has asked the party to release him from all his duties, including Parliament. Shivambu has been the party president since its founding in 2013. Samkela Maseko reports.
Several highly placed sources have confirmed to the SABC that EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu will not renew his party membership. The EFF Deputy President has also requested to be released from all of his duties in the party and in Parliament. Sources have, however, said Shivambu has requested the buy-in of the organization on the implementation of his decision.